Chapter 1242. Just say it. Your Honor, I feel that Lord Qingsu has a better idea. Dou Fushi wasn't going to fall for Qingsu's trick. Qingsu said softly, Your Honor, subordinate believes that Wei Chong will appear sooner or later. Yihua felt that it was better not to ask. These two people still don't have brains. However, Your Honor, I feel that Dong Huang is a little strange this time. Qingsu said in a low voice. Dou Fushi nodded. I still think that person is a little strange. Yihua took out a stick of cigarette and lit it up, then said faintly, I feel that everyone is acting weird. The three of them walked slowly towards the youth assembly. They stood high up on the spectator stand. Although it was a little far away, it was not a hindrance. On a stage, a fierce battle was currently happening. However, Yihua didn't have the mood to watch it at all. Qingsu, if they wanted to do something bad to Baiji, when would they choose to do it? Yihua asked curiously. Qingsu said in a low voice, If it were me, now would be the best time. No. Yihua muttered. That's right. I am not by Dong Huang Baiji's side right now. This is a good opportunity for me to make my move. He knew that Dong Huang Baiji's mood wasn't good, and she would definitely want to be alone. There weren't many people around her, and it would be the best time for him to make his move. After hearing that, Yihua did not become excited, and he also did not have any plans to go back. Even if something were to happen, it would be them who would be in trouble. You guys really don't know anything about Her Majesty. She's a fiery hot woman. Only in front of me she is like a little lamb. Just as they were chatting, a person appeared behind them. Yihua and the others knew about it, but none of them chose to turn their heads back. They were just that arrogant. Since they were standing at the back alone, did they have to turn their heads back? There are too few people who are able to make me turn back. Dong Huang Baiji is in danger. The person who came was naturally Dong Huang Ying. He knew that Dong Huang Ying had already gone to harm Dong Huang Baiji, and he was powerless to do anything about it. Thus he could only come and tell Yihua about it. Although Dong Huang Ying wanted the Empress, he wanted the complete Empress, not a soulless shell. Yihua heard it, but he still didn't turn his head around. Why are you telling me all these? Why? Dong Huang Baiji is in danger. Aren't you going to save her? Dong Huang Ying asked in a deep voice. Why was this man so calm? He was like this when he attacked Ying family, and he was still like this now. Save her? You don't understand. You should go and save your people. Yihua smoked the cigarette and blew a mouthful of smoke into the air, appearing to be very comfortable. I was just worrying that the ghost did not come out, and now that the ghost has come out by itself, it saved me a lot of trouble. Dong Huang Ying frowned, then turned around and left. The Empress must have been blind to marry such a man. Within Dong Huang Baiji's room right now, Dong Huang Baiji was not lying on the bed. Instead, she was sitting beside the wooden window and looking into the distance. His mind was in a mess, and he didn't know what to do. In the past, I seemed to be a bad woman. In any case, I was the kind of woman that was not welcomed, and was doubted by everyone. Dong dong dong. At this moment the door rang. Who? Dong Huang Baiji asked confusedly. Yihua definitely wouldn't knock on the door, and Yihua's subordinates wouldn't knock on the door either. Baiji, it's me. Dong Huang's voice sounded slowly. This caused Dong Huang Baiji to feel very puzzled. Why did this man come here? It was very strange. Please come in. Dong Huang Baiji shouted out in a low voice. Dong Huang Ji pushed open the wooden door and walked in, then said with a smile, Baiji, have you gotten used to living here? It's pretty good, the environment here is pretty good. Dong Huang Baiji said lightly, seemingly not putting up her guard against Dong Huang Ji. A trace of a smile appeared on Dong Huang Baiji's face. It's fine as long as you feel that it's good. It has been a very long time since you have returned home. Home? Everything here is very unfamiliar to me. Dong Huang Baiji said faintly. She did not feel that this place was her home. Where there is a home, there will definitely be a Yihua. Dong Huang Ji laughed lightly, then sat on the wooden chair and patted the white shirt that he was wearing. Baiji, how is your body? Dong Huang Ji suddenly asked. Dong Huang Baiji's gaze became serious. Leaning on the windowsill with one of her hands, Dong Huang Baiji looked at the back of Dong Huang Ji's head with a puzzled expression. You? Baiji, I am really happy that you are able to come back. After all, I have been waiting for you for a long time, and in the end I was about to give up. However, I met a person. At that time, I knew that we would meet each other sooner or later, and thus I have been waiting for you. If Dong Huang Baiji still doesn't understand right now, then she would have been an empress for nothing. This Dong Huangji wants to harm me, and I am the one who delivered myself to him. However, Dong Huang Baiji was also very confused. What is the name of that person that you are talking about? Oh, his name is Dong Huanging. He is a slave that I took in. In the past he was called Xianxia, right? Xianxia. Although Dong Huang Baiji had never met Xianxia before, she still knew that name. It's actually that. Dong Huang Baiji doesn't even know how to address that person anymore. Back then I only went to that place because I was angry. I didn't expect that Xianxia would actually become Dong Huanging. My God, I didn't expect that. Do you feel that your body doesn't have any strength left? Dong Huangji asked faintly. What are you trying to do? Dong Huang Baiji questioned coldly. Dong Huangji stood up, then turned around and looked towards the weak Dong Huang Baiji. The Dong Huang family is afraid of one thing: dragon incense. This is a type of sandalwood incense. As long as one smells it, one's entire body will become weak, and one will not be able to circulate one's energy. Dong Huang Baiji looked towards the sandalwood incense that was at the side and tightly wrinkled her brows. You guys had planned this from the start. I'm sorry, what you said is correct. Everything had indeed been planned out. Why? Your attitude in the past wasn't like this. Could it be that everything that you said was a lie? Dong Huang Baiji tightly held onto the windowsill, not letting her body fall down. Beads of sweat had already dripped down from her forehead, and she was gasping for breath. Dong Huangji took out a handkerchief and lightly wiped away Dong Huang Baiji's sweat. Child, you were born with extraordinary talent, and even your father was envious of you. Your bloodline is the purest in history. This caused our hearts to be clouded by lard, and in order to obtain your bloodline, we could only separate you and raise you separately. You guys are raising me like this? You can understand it that way. However, I didn't expect that your strength would become stronger and stronger, and it seems like you are a bit out of control. Originally, your father planned to directly kill you and seize the power of your bloodline, but what a pity. You killed a path of blood out of him. Also, because of you, your mother took a blade from your father, and that is the true cause of her death. Dong Huangji said with a slight smile, seemingly not placing the matter in his heart at all. To experts like them, as long as there was a better way to break through, they would be willing to pay any price. End of this chapter. Chapter 1243. Furthermore, Dong Huang Baiji was only a child, and this child was born by them in the first place. Therefore they believed that they had the right to decide the life and death of this child. This was the cruelty of a large clan. No, it should be the cruelty of the world. Dong Huang Baiji finally understood. So it turns out that what she said earlier was all a lie, and this is the truth. He had been locked up since he was born. It could be explained as being raised. These people were just spying on his bloodline. It was a tragedy to be born in such a family. You want to obtain my bloodline? Dong Huang Baiji asked in puzzlement. That's right, child. Your bloodline is the purest in the Eastern Emperor clan. If you obtain it, unifying the 9 prefectures and 5 seas is also possible. This time, Dong Huang was not interested in the position of clan leader, but in the 9 prefectures and 5 seas. He wanted to get rid of the other clans to show how strong the Dong Huang clan was. Dong Huang Baiji knew about the temptation of power, but she didn't expect that they would be so cruel just for the sake of power. Child, do not be afraid. There will be no pain. This time, Dong Huang flipped his palm and a black pillar appeared in his hand. This pearl was prepared for you. Your father didn't get to enjoy it, so I got lucky. This time Dong Huang smiled. This smile of his seemed to be sincere and happy, as if he had finally achieved what he had been waiting for many years. However, at this moment the door was pushed open, interrupting their conversation. Dong Huang's face darkened. He said coldly, "What are you doing here?" The person who came was naturally Dong Huanging. Just now, Dong Huanging went to look for Yihua, yet Yihua didn't come. How could Dong Huanging possibly sit still? The Empress was won by me, Dong Huang. Including the soul. No one could move. Master, don't suck her soul. This was the first time Dong Huanging acted arrogantly in front of Dong Huangyi. In the past he was always respectful towards Dong Huangyi. But now he seemed very calm. Because Dong Huanging knew that if he did that he might very well die. But even if he were to die, he would remain firm in his belief. The Empress is mine. I'm the man who's going to marry the Empress. Dong Huang Baiji looked towards Xianxia. This was the person that she wanted to marry in the past. However, that was only a decision that she made after getting angry. Dong Huangji didn't even turn his head and said indifferently, "Who do you think you are? How dare you beg me? You promised me before. Let me have her." Dong Huangying shouted angrily. This liar. Hearing Dong Huangying's words, Dong Huangbaiji was very surprised. I didn't expect that they would have such a transaction. In that case, they are in conflict right now? It seems like you're here to question my decision. This time, Dong Huangying was already emitting killing intent. However, Dong Huangying didn't seem to be afraid at all. He wanted to fight to the end. Dong Huangying said in a deep voice, "That is what you promised me. Then I've decided right now. I won't agree. Then I can only use the most primitive method." Dong Huangying immediately released his aura. Obviously, his aura was much stronger than before. But no matter how strong he was, he paled in comparison to Dong Huang. He didn't even have the strength to fight back. "Seems like you want to die," Dong Huang said indifferently and raised his palm. Dong Huangying, who was imposing just a moment ago, was instantly suppressed. His entire body seemed to be tied up by something, and his face revealed a painful expression. "When you sold your soul to me, there were no more conditions." Dong Huang slowly clenched his fists. As for Dong Huangying, he felt as if his body was being squeezed and his 7 apertures were bleeding. "Bah! The Empress is mine. Everyone wants to snatch her away from me." Dong Huangying's obsession was a bit terrifying. Even if he was going to die right now, he wasn't afraid at all. Reckless fool. Dong Huang clenched his fists tightly. Crack. All of the bones in Dong Huangying's body began cracking. However, it couldn't be seen from the outside at all. But even so, Dong Huangying's gaze was still on Dong Huangbaiji's body. "Next life. In my next life, I still want to marry you. At that time, no one will be able to stop me." Dong Huangying waved his hand, and Dong Huangying's body turned into dust and disappeared from the room. "I gave you an inch and you want a foot. I promised to give you a physical body, yet you are still not satisfied," Dong Huangying said in disdain. Dong Huangbaiji leaned on the windowsill and gasped for breath. "You even killed your subordinate." "He is not a subordinate, he is just a person who is neither male nor female. Even an ant is nobler than him," Dong Huangying said lightly. Yi Hua claimed that he was an inhumane person, but compared to them, Yi Hua was rather compassionate. Towards Xianxia's death, Dong Huangbaiji didn't feel much. After all, so many years had passed and Xianxia suddenly appeared and even collaborated with others to deal with me. I was disturbed by him for a while. Let's begin. I have waited for this moment for a long time, and I don't want to continue waiting any longer. Child, thank you. The black pearl floated up from Dong Huangying's palm. Dong Huangbaiji could be seen with the naked eye. Needless to say, the black pearl was definitely absorbing Dong Huangbaiji's bloodline. Dong Huangying's gaze was filled with excitement. "I'm going to possess the strongest bloodline very soon. That indestructible Shrine's palace master is going to teach me a lesson with a slap." Dong Huangbaiji could feel that the bloodline within her body was currently trembling. This pearl is indeed very powerful. However, Dong Huangying slightly wrinkled his brows. "I have been absorbing for such a long time. Why isn't there any reaction? This doesn't seem to be possible." While wrinkling his brows, Dong Huangying continued to wait. "Dong Huangying, are you feeling very confused?" Dong Huangbaiji said in a low voice. Dong Huangying did not say anything. "I don't feel very good. Logically speaking, I have already absorbed all of my bloodline, so why isn't there any reaction at all?" Dong Huangbaiji continued. "In actuality, other than Dong Huang's bloodline, there is another bloodline within my body." "There is another bloodline?" Dong Huangying cried out in surprise. "That's right, that bloodline is called Yi Hua's bloodline." Dong Huangbaiji knew that the power of Yi Hua's bloodline had already fused with her body. Even Xianxia had Yi Hua's bloodline. To be more precise, as long as one gives birth to Yi Hua's child, one would be able to possess Yi Hua's bloodline. This is definitely a super great benefit. If all the women were to know about this, they would definitely flock towards it. This is simply a cheating tool. Yi Hua's bloodline? What bloodline is this? Dong Huangying asked confusedly. This bloodline is very powerful to the point that I don't even know how powerful I am. Dong Huangbaiji raised her head and looked towards Dong Huangying. Her slightly arched body gradually straightened up. Although the black pearl was absorbing the bloodline, it was unable to absorb anything. Dong Huangying didn't believe it. Stretching out his hand, Dong Huang Baiji held onto the black pearl with his hand and used his own cultivation technique to increase the absorption power. Dong Huang Baiji just stood there without moving. However, Dong Huangying's expression became more and more grave. How is this possible? It is impossible for there to be a mistake. End of this chapter. Chapter 1244. Dong Huangji, the one who made a mistake is not the pearl but yourselves. Dong Huang Baiji said coldly. She was extremely disappointed in this family. Dong Huangji looked at Dong Huang Baiji in disbelief. You are not Dong Huang Baiji. Are you panicking? Dong Huang Baiji slowly sat on the wooden chair at the side. Dong Huang Baiji's slender fingers were placed on the armrest as she looked at Dong Huang Ci with her eyes. Dong Huang Baiji appeared exceptionally calm. Compared to the perplexed Dong Huang Ci from before, the current Dong Huang Baiji was the real empress. Dong Huangji's expression tensed up as he stared at Dong Huang Baiji, as if he was trying to see through her. However, he didn't manage to see through her. After a long time, Dong Huangji laughed lightly and said faintly, Baiji, I have still underestimated you. As expected of the most talented person in Dong Huang family. After so many years, you have become even more powerful than before. Seems like your pure bloodline has helped you quite a bit. I don't know about bloodline, but I do know that having a powerful man is much more important than bloodline. Dong Huang Baiji's lips formed an arc. Bloodline is nothing. Dong Huangji frowned. He didn't expect that this would happen and deviate from his plan. Looking at Dong Huang Baiji in front of him, Dong Huangji had the intention to kill her. However, if he were to make a move, it would definitely cause a huge commotion. At that time, everyone would know that he was going to steal her bloodline. After all, Dong Huang Baiji had displayed her bloodline before. I shouldn't have done that back then, but who knew? This woman actually became so powerful that I can't even suck her bloodline anymore. Are you thinking of killing me? Dong Huang Baiji asked lightly without any fear. But are you afraid that the commotion would be too big and that it wouldn't be easy to clean up the mess? Dong Huang Baiji was, after all, an empress. Dong Huangji said gravely, Baiji, you have become very smart, but this will only speed up your death. You want me to die? Are you sure? After all, I have a man who regards me as important as his life. Dong Huang Baiji said proudly. In any case, Yihua is not here, so I might as well boast as I want. Dong Huangji snorted coldly. Baiji, the current you looks much more comfortable than before. Of course, because I'm not that easy to provoke and I won't be bullied by you. Dong Huang Baiji's tone gradually became cold. Towards those who wanted to harm her own people, Dong Huang Baiji would never be soft-hearted. On this point she was different from Xianxia. So, therefore you will die today. Dong Huang Baiji said lightly, announcing Dong Huang's death. Dong Huang chuckled. You're announcing my death? How arrogant, even more arrogant than before. You are thinking that I don't dare to make a move here, right? At that time, if the commotion were to become too big, it would not be good for me either. After all, if I were to kill you, my reputation would not be good. Dong Huang Baiji said lightly. See, still no. This is also the reason why I didn't kill you. Dong Huang Baiji said in disdain. This Dong Huang Baiji is a bit hard to grasp. Just now, when Dong Huang Baiji sucked on the blood, I knew that Dong Huang Baiji's strength is definitely not beneath mine. But I want to tell you, you think that I will cause a commotion, but when I kill you I will definitely not cause a commotion. Dong Huang Baiji's tone was cold. The moment I walked into this East Royal family I was plotted against. Even these rooms are filled with dragon incense. It is as if they are trying to harm me. This is simply intolerable. Since you are so cruel to me, then don't blame me for not giving you any face. Ha ha. Dong Huang Baiji, although you have a pure bloodline, it is impossible for you to kill me silently. Dong Huangji laughed loudly. He was laughing at Dong Huang Baiji for overestimating herself. At this time 3 figures walked into the room. He might cause a commotion, but I can. Yihua said faintly while smoking. Qing Su and Dou Fushi followed behind him. Dong Huangji suddenly turned his head around. I actually didn't notice them coming in. Yihua sat beside Dong Huang Baiji, Qing Su stood beside Yihua, and Dou Fushi closed the door and stood guard at the entrance. His meaning couldn't be any clearer. You will not be able to leave today. Just give up on this thought. Dong Huangji was naturally able to sense it as well, and he said gravely, Looks like you are planning to go against the entire East royal family. Yi Hua flicked the cigarette ash and said lightly, "You used the wrong word. This is not a fight, this is a one-sided fight." One-sided fight? Looks like you don't know anything about the East royal family. Looks like you are the same as other people, you don't understand the situation clearly. This time I brought my wife here just to cause trouble. Originally, I thought that since you two are a loving family, there would be nothing to cause trouble for me. However, I never expected that you still gave me an excuse to cause trouble. Yi Hua had been watching from outside for a long time, and he thought that Donghuang Baiji had already settled everything. But when he came back, the Empress was still chatting with someone else. Thus, he didn't disturb her and eavesdropped on them from outside. Feeling that it was about time, Yi Hua walked into the room. After all, it is time for me to flaunt my strength. I said that I will take turns to act cool. Then I would like to see how you two are going to kill me silently. Dong Huangji said in disdain, and a sharp aura was emitted out from him. Yi Hua flicked the cigarette but that was on his finger and said faintly, "Originally I planned to insta-kill you, but you felt that I wouldn't dare to kill you openly. This made me a bit surprised. In this world, there is nothing that I, the Supreme Overlord, don't dare to do." Just when Yi Hua finished speaking, a powerful aura suddenly blossomed, forming a powerful airwave. The room was instantly blown over, and Wan Wan, who was sleeping at the side, immediately let out a scream. I thought that someone was going to kill me, and when she saw Yi Hua, who was not far away, she hurriedly ran over. Not a single building in the surroundings was spared, and all of them collapsed. Everyone felt and even heard such a thing happening in the Orange Building. Dong Huangji, who was hosting the youngsters' assembly, frowned. "What is Uncle doing? Something's wrong. This aura isn't Uncle's, there isn't even a bit of bloodline aura. It belongs to someone else." Jiang Wuyu, who was sitting at the side, said in a low voice, "Something happened here." "I know." Dong Huangji immediately disappeared from the spot, and Jiang Wuyu hurriedly followed after him. Today the Donghuang family will not be peaceful anymore. As the disciples of the Orange Building, they all rushed towards the location of the incident. Right now Donghuang Baiji was a bit dizzy. Yi Hua is trying to blow this matter up. I originally wanted to kill Donghuangji stealthily. Does Yi Hua really think that I am afraid of him? You all treated my woman like that, how can you all not pay the price? Do you all really think that my temper is that good? You are truly thinking too much. Dong Huangji didn't expect that Yi Hua would actually dare to do such a thing. With such a huge commotion, everyone in the Donghuang family would definitely know about it. The matter went out of control again, and this caused Dong Huangji to be very angry. This man is truly crazy. End of this chapter. Chapter 1245. After all, Dong Huangji still wanted to continue living here. However, Yi Hua was different. He stood on the side of reason and did not need to consider his face at all. Since the other party was already bullying me, do I still have to give in? That's impossible. Yi Hua felt auras flying over. The first to appear was naturally Dong Huangji. There was another person that Yi Hua did not recognize, and that person was naturally Jiang Wuyu. Very quickly, the surrounding area was filled with people from Donghuang family. Everyone was very confused. Uncle and Donghuang Baiji? What is going on? Dong Huangji looked very solemn and his face was very gloomy. Jiang Wuyu, who was standing not far away from Donghuang Baiji, tightly wrinkled his brows as he looked at Yi Hua and Donghuang Baiji. What is going on? Dong Huangji asked in a low voice. As the family master, he had to display the dignity of a family master. Yi Hua stood up and said faintly, "Although you are the family master, shouldn't you greet your big sister when you see her?" Dong Huangji. Yi Hua wanted to make things clear to everyone. The disciples who did not know what was going on were all stupefied. Donghuang Baiji is the family master's big sister. I have never heard of the family master having a big sister. Dong Huangji was very angry. This man is going to leak out this scandal. Jiang Wuyu was even more astonished. This woman is actually Dong Huangji's big sister? When did I have a big sister? Didn't I only have big brother? The surrounding people immediately started discussing. Dong Huangji shouted out angrily, "Everyone quiet down. Audacious. You are actually spreading rumors." Dong Huangji shouted out again. Of course, he had to redeem the family master's face. This kind of thing definitely cannot be leaked out. Yi Hua sneered and looked at Donghuang Baiji, seemingly saying that your blood brother really doesn't like you. Compared to Donghuang Baiji, Yi Hua seemed to be much more fortunate. At least his blood brother acknowledged him as his big brother, and he was very obedient. However, Donghuang Baiji's blood brother would rather care about his face than acknowledge her as his big sister. This was truly disappointing. Indeed, Donghuang Baiji could feel the disappointment in her heart. Right now she did not feel like a family at all. To her these people were even more unfamiliar than strangers. Yi Hua said faintly, "The two of you want to monopolize the pure bloodline, what a great scheme." "Nonsense. I, the Eastern monarch, will never do such a lowly thing." The aura of the Eastern monarch pole spread out, and there was an indescribable feeling of holiness, which made this sentence much more believable. The Eastern monarch Ji had indeed not done such a thing. This was the truth. Yi Hua looked towards Donghuang Tachi, the great uncle in everyone's hearts. "What about you, Donghuang Tsai?" Yi Hua questioned. This time, Donghuang's face was calm. He said, "You two, I'm afraid you've misunderstood something. However, it seems like you two are declaring war on the entire Eastern royal family." Yi Hua let out a deep sigh. This is what it means to dare to do something but not dare to admit it. Yi Hua patted on Donghuang Baiji's shoulder, indicating that she can let out a sigh of relief. "Even if I killed them, I wouldn't feel any guilt at all." Donghuang Baiji slowly closed her beautiful eyes. It seemed like she no longer had any thoughts in her mind. This was exactly the attitude that Yi Hua wanted. He looked at the crowd and said in a deep voice, "That's right. This sovereign is declaring war on your Donghuang clan. For so many years, there has never been such an arrogant person who dares to stand in front of the family head and say such a thing." One who was standing at the back was scared silly. Is there a need to be so arrogant? After all, this is the Eastern royal family, can't you be a bit more low profile? Low profile? That doesn't exist. Jiang Wuyu's expression was grave. "I'm afraid that today won't be a peaceful day. Your Honor, please allow subordinate to come down, I don't want to dirty your hands." Qing Su, who was standing at the back, said respectfully. Yi Hua said faintly, "It has been a long time since I fought and I want to exercise my body. I hope that I can warm up a bit." Donghuang Tachi shouted out coldly, "Don't be so arrogant, this is the Eastern royal family. It is precisely because we are in the Eastern royal family that I am giving you all face. If not, I wouldn't even have said a single word." Yi Hua said in disdain, "I am giving you all face but you all don't want it. Inexperienced child, you truly don't know the immensity of heaven and earth." Donghuang Tachi took a step forward and released an overflowing killing intent. Even the air was trembling and everyone could feel Donghuang Tachi's anger. "Seems like great uncle is going to make his move. Do you all only know how to talk glibly?" Donghuang Tachi's figure disappeared from where he was and appeared in the sky behind Yi Hua. Donghuang Tachi's right fist smashed down. This fist contained the might of heaven and earth, and the entire sky seemed to be trembling. The fist emitted out a scorching aura as it smashed towards the back of Yi Hua's head. Donghuang Tachi felt like he could see this poser's head exploding. "A lowly man dares to be arrogant here. I don't know where your courage comes from, and you even dare to call yourself the supreme overlord. Who gave you the courage?" Although Yi Hua's strength isn't as strong as Yi Zizi's, in actuality he is already very strong. It's just that Yi Zizi is more terrifying. Towards this kind of fist, Yi Hua didn't want to use any flashy moves to deal with it. "I only need a single fist. No, it's a slap." Pop. A loud and clear sound suddenly rang out. The sound was deafening and pierced through the entire world. Everyone was dumbfounded and looked at the scene in front of them in disbelief. What just happened? Why did it become like this? Behind Yi Hua, a large crater appeared, and within the large crater, a figure was lying on the ground. Without needing to think too much, everyone knew who the figure was. Yi Hua stood with his hands behind his back and said faintly, "Flashy and useless." All the disciples were shocked. Donghuang Jieshang and Jiang Wuyu's jaws almost dropped to the ground. This man. He slapped Donghuang to the ground. Donghuang, who was in the crater, was trembling slightly. He placed both of his hands on the ground as if he wanted to stand up, but he didn't have the strength to do so. But this time, Donghuang's heart was filled with shock. Just now he didn't even see the other party's movements and he already felt a huge force on his face. His mind went blank and the huge impact made him unable to stand straight. Even now he couldn't think straight. Wan was stunned. This man could actually slap Donghuang to the ground. Was this still a person? Was that a god? Dong Huang was considered one of the best in the 9 states and 5 seas this time, and yet he was taken care of so easily? Dong Huang Baiji didn't say anything. Even if these people were to die, I wouldn't feel any heartache. After all, they only have themselves to blame. This move of Yi Hua's shocked everyone, and they basically did not dare to make any movements. After all, the one that was beaten up was Tai Shu. He was no small fry. At this moment Yi Hua took out a cigarette and lit it up. He took a deep breath and exhaled. Not dead yet. He seems to have some ability. Everyone took in a breath of cold air. Not dead means that he has ability. Then if he died, that means that he doesn't have any ability? Dong Huang Jishang vomited out a mouthful of blood. Until now he still didn't understand why he lost. There's still a lot of big moves that I didn't use. End of this chapter. Chapter 1246. Flicking away the ash from his cigarette, Yi Hua looked towards the person he was talking about. As expected, you are unable to let me exercise my muscles and bones. Who is the next one? The East Imperial Pole? Are you coming up? With the cigarette in his mouth and both of his hands inside his pocket, Yi Hua's actions were insufferably arrogant. Wan Wan was already stupefied. Just who is this person? To actually be able to deal with Dong Huang, this old man, with a single slap, and even now he is still twitching. Was he going to die? Right now Dong Huang's entire body was twitching. It was as if he was struggling before death. Dong Huang Baiji was able to see everything clearly. However, right now she did not feel any pity for Yi Hua at all. Of course Dong Huang Ji also saw it. He didn't have any impulsive thoughts in his heart, but as the family head he still had to say what he should. How dare you kill granduncle? Too arrogant. Dong Huang Extreme Supreme roared furiously. This kind of person was simply infuriating. Yi Hua snorted coldly. So it is only now that you realize that I am indeed very arrogant. I'll give you a chance. This time Dong Huang stopped convulsing. He died just like that, directly killed by a single slap from Yi Hua. A golden primordial spirit floated out from Dong Huang's body, and the primordial spirit fled at high speed. Only those who experienced it would know just how formidable that slap of Yi Hua's was. That was the most terrifying slap that Dong Huang had ever seen. I have still underestimated these people too much. But could Dong Huang escape this time? It was obvious that he couldn't escape. The golden primordial spirit gradually turned dark green before falling from the sky. It fell to the ground with a thud and turned into a pool of green water. That was a little scary. How could his primordial spirit turn into water? Who did it just now? The man didn't move at all, and the people behind him didn't move either. However, Wan Wan knew that it was definitely that fatty who did it. Jiang Wuyu already had a fearful expression on his face. In front of them he was completely defenseless. Hopefully Dong Huang Ji wouldn't be rash as well. If he were to do so he would definitely die. Now was not the time to be impulsive. But Dong Huang Ji was the family head. There were some things that he had to say. Otherwise he would lose face today. Don't look like you want to kill me. Why don't you make a move? Yi Hua swayed his palm, indicating that the slap just now was very pleasurable. Especially that instant when the slap went down, that slap sound was extremely shocking. However, Yi Hua had to admit that he had indeed used too much force just now. If he didn't use too much force he wouldn't have been able to slap Yi Hua to death. Everyone around them knew that if this man could slap Taishu to death with one slap, then he could slap anyone present to death. Yi Hua crooked his finger towards Dong Huang Ji. Dong Huang Ji didn't want to step out, but his body didn't listen to Yi Hua and floated forward. The disciples could only watch as their patriarch was humiliated by the bad guys, but they did not dare to do anything. After all, the bad guys were too ferocious. Rushing forward was no different from courting death. Eastern Emperor Ji Shang, speaking of which, I still have to call you brother-in-law. Yi Hua laughed lightly. Dong Huang Ji Shang's expression was not good. Right now I will give you a chance to live. Call for help. Yi Hua said faintly. He wanted me to acknowledge Dong Huang Baiji's identity. Didn't he say that it was fine just now? A struggle appeared on the Eastern Monarch pole as if he was making a decision. When Jiang Wuyu, who was in the group, saw this scene he somewhat wanted to leave, but he was afraid that he would be caught the moment he turned around. That would be even more tragic. Seeing that Dong Huang Ji was struggling, Yi Hua said faintly, seems like I have to give you some motivation. No need, I will call for help. Dong Huang Ji was naturally a smart person. Since I am going to call for help, I might as well call for help now. If not, when I get beaten up later on, I will still have to call for help. Dong Huangji raised his head and looked towards Dong Huangbaiji, then shouted out in a low voice, "Big sister." Louder, did you not eat? Yi Hua really wanted to give Dong Huangbaiji a slap. Dong Huangji felt as if he was dreaming. I am the patriarch. Why is it that after they came I seem to have become a lackey? No. I am even more miserable than a lackey. Big sister. Brother-in-law. Dong Huangji shouted out loudly. The corner of Yi Hua's mouth twitched. I didn't ask you to call for me. Dong Huangji felt wronged in his heart. You are the one who said that if I call for help, then I will definitely include you. However, when everyone heard Dong Huangji's words, they were all very astonished. Dong Huangbaiji is actually the patriarch's big sister. Why didn't I know about such a thing? Just how many secrets are there that everyone doesn't know about? Yi Hua took a look at the surrounding people, then said towards Dong Huangji, "Speak, tell me everything that happened." Dong Huangji didn't want to speak. He looked towards Dong Huangbaiji, who was at the back. I really can't speak about this. If I speak about this, the consequences will be very serious. The Dong Huang family will really become the laughingstock of everyone. Dong Huangbaiji chose to ignore Yi Hua's words. Towards this family, her heart is already cold. There's nothing that she wants to say. Yi Hua can do whatever he wants to do. Brother-in-law, listen to me, this concerns indestructible shrine. Every single family is authoritative. If I were to speak about this, the authority of the Dong Huang family will be lowered, and the power of sealing the shrine master will also be lowered. I really can't speak about this. Yi Hua let out a heavy sigh. I am asking you to speak, so speak. What indestructible shrine? Hurry up, I don't like people who waste time. I really can't speak about this. Yi Hua could be seen saying in a low voice, I heard that after you die that shrine master will be released. You. Dong Huangji Shang looked at Yi Hua in astonishment. This man is going to release Palace Master. Yi Hua nodded his head and didn't deny it. That's right, I am going to get the Palace Master out. I want to see just how formidable this Palace Master is, to be able to bewitch even my subordinate. You simply don't understand how powerful that Palace Master is. Dong Huangji said in a deep voice. This man was definitely crazy, a madman. Yi Hua snorted coldly. Who does he think he is? Speak, or die. Take your pick. Facing Yi Hua's threat, what else could Dong Huangji do? He could only say, this is what a smart person should be. Even if I die, I will still release him. Even if I don't die, I will still have to release him. I might as well just stay alive. How good is it to be alive? As Dong Huangji spoke of the truth, everyone was shocked. This Dong Huangbaiji was actually so pitiful. Even the old patriarch and grand uncle wanted to obtain the bloodline and even wanted to kill him. Simply too inhumane. As a member of the Dong Huang clan, they all felt ashamed. Jiang Wuyu knew that it was over. That palace master is definitely going to come out. Damn it, I have to go back and make preparations immediately. If that palace master comes out, he will definitely kill all of us one by one. After Dong Huangji finished speaking, he collapsed onto the ground and his eyes became lifeless. Today was the day of humiliation for the entire Dong Huang clan, and it was all because of this man and woman. Stirring up trouble. Yi Hua was very satisfied and asked in a low voice, that palace master should be able to come out, right? 7 days later the seal will be reinforced. End of this chapter. Chapter 1247. Before Dong Huangji could finish speaking, Yi Hua said, that's right, even if you don't go, you will still be able to come out. Dong Huangji, if that's the case, why didn't I say it just now? Right now my face is on the ground and I don't have the face to be the family master anymore. Don't run away these few days if I find out that you ran away. Yi Hua gave him a death stare, then looked at Dong Huangbaiji. After all, he is my blood-related little brother. If I really kill him, I won't be giving my wife any face. Don't look at how the Empress doesn't mind, but if I really kill him I will feel a little emotional. After all, he is my blood-related little brother. Yi Hua brought Dong Huangbaiji and the others and left. However, they didn't leave the East royal family, and instead chose another good place to stay. At the scene, Dong Huangji didn't have the face to face everyone, and he directly disappeared from where he was and went back to seclusion. However, Dong Huangji's corpse was still there and no one went to touch it. This old man is very bad, to even lay his hands on his own niece. This old man is simply shameless. He was directly slapped to death. What a good slap. The disciples slowly left, but what happened today had already spread to the other floors, and even some odd job workers knew about it. And those odd job workers spread the news one after another. Gossip will never be able to be hidden. Inside a broken temple in the 9 provinces and 5 seas. There were a few figures standing here and 2 skeletons were very conspicuous. However, the 2 skeletons were standing behind a man, and that man was naturally Wei Chong. Wei Chong was a bit flirtatious. A strand of hair was naturally hanging down from his forehead, giving off a feeling of a prodigal son in love. The rigidity that he had in the past disappeared and he became a playboy. Look at the folding fan in his hand, there are even words written on it. Flirtatious. Truly unique. The one standing at the side was the Imperial commander, Falling Dust. The woman behind him was precisely that ferocious drunken cry. There was also a stranger man. This man seemed a bit cold and didn't speak much. His eyes. There were dark circles around his eyes, or maybe it was smoky makeup, but it was still quite unique. At least the big sister likes this look. That golden nose ring was also very prominent, giving off a feeling that I want to hold on to it. Of course, that steel-like earring was also a bit rough. I'm really worried that the earring might get inflamed and become pustules. After all, that earring seems a bit rusty. Big brother. In any case, you should at least change it to a gold one. Why are you bringing a rusty one? However, this person's facial features were not bad. They made up for these flaws. If he wasn't good-looking, why would he do this? That must be a non-mainstream person. After all, that afro was very eye-catching. This was Lord Ming, whom Wan Wan was infatuated with. That's right, his real name was Lord Ming. These people could be considered the main force of the imperishable shrine. Of course, there were also many underlings. The palace master should be breaking the seal soon. Falling Dust acted like a normal person. He held a tattered broom and spoke as he swept the floor. Drunken Cry, who stood at the back, did not say a word. She looked at everyone warily as if she did not trust anyone. I'm really looking forward to the hall master's arrival. Wei Chong opened his arms as if he was going to hug the palace master. His worship was a little crazy. The death mage and death assassin who were standing at the back couldn't understand. Their thoughts were still there, but they couldn't disobey orders. As for why their master betrayed them, the death mage and death assassin were also very confused. Looking at this unfamiliar master in front of them, the 2 skeletons were also very confused. Humph. Putting on an act. Lord Ming snorted in disdain. Seeing that the 2 of them were going to quarrel with each other, Falling Dust hurriedly mediated. All right, are the 2 of you enemies? The 2 of you quarrel whenever you are together. Falling Dust. This is an outsider and you actually recruited him. How do you know if he is truly relying on us? What if he is only pretending? Lord Ming questioned coldly. In his heart, he doesn't believe that Wei Chong joined us normally. Look at that exaggerated action of his. It looks so fake. Following Lord Ming's words, the 2 skeletons went into a daze. What Lord Ming said makes sense. Perhaps, Master is pretending to be relying on us to obtain information for his honor. Wow, Master is so quick-witted. Lord Ming Wei Chong is naturally loyal to the palace master. Could it be that the mark on his forehead doesn't prove anything? Falling Dust said helplessly. The mark on his forehead is an exclusive mark. As long as it is marked on his forehead, he will have to obey the palace master unconditionally. Lord Ming snorted coldly. Mark. To a powerful person, a mark is nothing. Lord Ming. Are you questioning the palace master's strength? Falling Dust shouted angrily. The atmosphere between the 2 of them immediately froze, and it seemed like they were about to fight. At this time, Wei Chong laughed and said, Lords, the palace master is about to come out, please calm down. I reckon that the palace master doesn't want to see the 2 of you arguing with each other, right? Humph. There is no need for you to pretend to be kind here. Lord Ming shouted in disdain. Lord Ming. I will report your actions to the palace master in detail. Do whatever you want. This fellow is a spy. I have already seen through him. Both of you will regret this. Lord Ming pointed at Wei Chong and shouted. Wei Chong held onto his forehead and said helplessly, Lord Ming, I don't seem to have provoked you. Why are you targeting me like this? I am targeting you. You are one of the 7 sins, Wei Chong. Do you think that I don't know you? I don't believe that you will betray us just like that. Wei Chong let out a long sigh. Sigh, you don't know how painful it is to work under his honor. You have to listen to him. If you don't listen, you will be scolded. Even if you do the right thing, you will still be scolded. You can only endure it. I have long been sick of this kind of life. So, I'm taking this opportunity to leave. You speak as if I will believe you. Lord Ming said in disdain. In any case, he didn't believe Wei Chong. However, Falling Dust still believed Wei Chong because he saw everything, but Lord Ming didn't see what happened. I believe that Wei Chong is loyal to the palace master. Lord Ming, you can shut up now. Humph. You will regret this. Lord Ming said coldly. Falling Dust revealed an apologetic look and looked at Wei Chong. Wei Chong expressed that he could understand. This kind of thing was very hard for others to accept. Alright, now let's talk about proper business. Falling Dust said gravely. Sweeping a glance at everyone, he said, the palace master is about to break the seal. Naturally, there will be no lack of killing. In this 9 provinces and 5 seas, I believe that everyone knows who sealed the palace master. At that time, the palace master will definitely kill that person. We will naturally follow the palace master and kill everyone. Let them know. The might of the imperishable shrine. Falling Dust's words were a bit hot-blooded, to the point that he was burning with passion. Drunken Cry, who was standing at the back, looked at Falling Dust's back, and a trace of tenderness appeared in his eyes. End of this chapter. Chapter 1248. Wei Chong asked curiously, when will the temple master appear? In a few days. Falling Dust said excitedly. The temple master was finally going to see the light of day. I'm so excited. I can finally see the temple master. What an honor. Wei Chong opened his arms again as if he was going to hug the temple master. However, Lord Ming snorted coldly. Keep acting. Falling Dust stopped talking. He was too lazy to speak. Wei Chong smiled and did not bother with him anymore. When are we going to welcome the temple master? Wei Chong asked curiously. Falling Dust smiled. In a few days we will go together to welcome the temple master. I believe that with our strength, those family heads can only tremble in fear. Of course. We will be loyal to the temple master. Wei Chong acted cool again, extremely sincere. Lord Ming snorted coldly. You are really not suitable for acting. Only these idiots will believe you. Lord Ming. I dare you to say another word. Drunken Cry shouted. She actually scolded the imperial commander. Drunken Cry. Don't think that you can do whatever you want just because Falling Dust is protecting you. Wei Chong smiled. Alright, we are all from the imperishable shrine. Stop arguing. If the temple master sees us being so disunited, he will not be happy. That's right. Wei Chong is right. We need to be united, Lord Ming. You better behave yourself. Falling Dust gave the final warning. Lord Ming snorted coldly and did not say another word. You will definitely regret it. You will not even know how you died. On the other side, Jiang Wuyu hurried back home to call for a meeting. His goal was for this matter. The East Emperor was dead. He was killed with a single slap. And that man's goal was to release the temple master. However, he did not seem to be from the imperishable shrine. But why would he release such a person? He really did not understand. Patriarch, from what you're saying, Supreme East Monarch will not appear this time? One of the elders asked in a low voice. Jiang Wuyu nodded. Yes, the East Emperor Pole will definitely not appear this time. Then the Temple Master will definitely appear again. When that time comes, the entire 9 states and 5 seas will be in danger. Then what should we do? Let's gather the other 2 families and kill that man. Are you stupid? He killed Dong Huang with a single slap, but if you go over he will kill you with a single breath. Exactly. Then what do you think we should do? Are we supposed to wait for the Hall Master to come out and annihilate us one by one? Everyone quietened down when they heard this. Of course, it was the 4 great clans that were sealed. Based on the Hall Master's character, he would definitely take revenge on them one by one after he came out. Patriarch, what should we decide? There are only a few more days to reinforce the seal. We can't care about Dong Huang anymore. What we need to do now is to gather the strength of the other 2 families and prepare for the indestructible shrine. Jiang Wuyu didn't have any better ideas. There was no hope for the Dong Huang clan, and he didn't know which side the Hall Master would choose. If he directly went to the Eastern Royal Clan, that would definitely be the best, but if he didn't go to the Eastern Royal Clan, then it would be very troublesome. Patriarch, you have to hurry up. We don't have much time. Jiang Wuyu felt the same way. There was no time to lose. They had to quickly gather everyone. Within the Eastern Emperor clan, Yi Hua was currently chatting with Eastern Emperor Ji Shang. You are saying that the indestructible shrine was sealed by you all? In that case, if the Hall Master were to come out, he would definitely come and look for you all? Yi Hua asked. If nothing unexpected happens, that should be the case. That Hall Master is a person who will definitely take revenge. Eastern Emperor Ji Shang's expression wasn't very good. I am clearly in my own territory, yet I feel as if I am being imprisoned, and I don't have any human rights at all. Seems like there is no need for me to go out and look for the Hall Master, they will naturally come over. Yi Hua laughed lightly. This is good too. I just have to wait for the Hall Master to come over. Of course there is also Wei Chong. Eastern Emperor Ji Shang remained silent. This man in front of me is a madman. Even a madman wouldn't do something like this. If the Hall Master were to be released, countless lives would be lost, and countless people would die under his blade. At that time, corpses would be strewn everywhere and it would be hell on earth. Don't be nervous, it is just a small matter. Yi Hua said lightly. He took out a stick of cigarette and lit it up, then looked at the night sky. Right at this moment, Xianxia's voice sounded out in Yi Hua's mind. Hubby, where are you? Baiji and I are outside looking for Wei Chong. How are the two of you doing accompanying mother? Yi Hua asked lightly, and a trace of an arc could be seen on the corner of his mouth. Mother is very happy. We just came back from the Alps and mother even went skiing. She is very happy. Hearing Xianxia's tone, Yi Hua knew that mother was truly happy. Yi Hua himself felt gratified as well. Are you planning to come back after playing for a long time? At least for 1 to 2 months. Mother is very interested in this place and she doesn't really want to go back anymore. After all, mother is staying in the palace and mother has nowhere else to go. Yi Hua let out a light sigh. That's right. When mother is staying in the palace, she really doesn't want to go out at all. If I were to choose, I would definitely choose to stay on Earth as well. However, there are still a lot of things that I haven't finished here. Yi Hua, mother said that this place is pretty good. Xianxia said in a low voice. Yi Hua said helplessly, this is what mother told you to say. Mother didn't want to tell you because she was afraid that you would get angry. It is more appropriate for me to tell you. Xianxia smiled tenderly. Yi Hua pursed his lips. Wherever mother likes to stay, then let her stay. In any case, it is not that long to go back and forth. Alright then, I will go and tell mother. Xianxia laughed lightly. What is mother doing? Mother is dancing in the square. Yi Hua. That's right, Yi Hua, did you manage to find Wei Chong? Xianxia asked curiously. Yi Hua let out a deep sigh. Soon Qingsu is already settled. It's good. Pay attention to your safety and pay more attention to the children too. Don't worry, I will keep an eye on the children's side, nothing will happen. And that's all then, I will be hanging up now. I'm hanging up. Yi Hua was clearly transmitting his voice, but he made it sound as if he was making a phone call. This is simply a phone call from a different plane. Yi Hua stood up and walked towards the house. Donghuang Jieshong was a bit confused. This man actually has a mother? Such a cold-blooded man, shouldn't he be an orphan? This is a bit ridiculous. Sigh. It's over. Donghuang Jieshong left with a look of despair on his face. That palace master's formidability is something that you will never be able to imagine. You have been released, but it is impossible for you to go back in. Furthermore, you will be tortured to death and even you will not be able to escape. You are too careless. You are too careless. However, he doesn't listen to you at all. What else can you do? If you insist on going your own way, when the time comes, everyone will desert you. Brothers, next month is going to end soon. End of this chapter. Chapter 1249. After returning to the room, Yi Hua saw that Donghuang Baiji was currently in a daze. Baiji, what's wrong? Yi Hua muttered. Donghuang Baiji let out a deep sigh. I really want to leave this place, it's uncomfortable to stay here. Yi Hua patted onto Donghuang Baiji's head. We will return after a few more days. Just now, Xianxia told me that mother likes Earth a lot and decided to temporarily live there. That's right, that place is indeed good, I also want to go back and live there. Donghuang Baiji said softly. Yi Hua nodded his head. How about this, after I finish dealing with the matters here, we will go back and live there. Aren't you going to conquer the world? Donghuang Baiji asked confusedly. Yi Hua said faintly, let the children do this kind of thing. I am also a bit tired, it's better for me to live a peaceful life. Perhaps those few years of comfortable life affected me. Yihua, are you really planning to? Dong Huang Baiji said with a trace of happiness. In actuality, she didn't like this kind of life either. Going back and opening a bar is also pretty good. Yihua laughed lightly. Although that kind of life wasn't passionate, it was still very peaceful. Dong Huang Baiji seemed to be reminiscing about that kind of life. Then after you finish dealing with the matters here, we will go back together. Let's settle the matters in front of us first. Yihua's gaze became grave. That palace master's strength is definitely not ordinary, otherwise Wei Chong wouldn't have betrayed us. In a few days' time I might not only have to fight against the palace master, I might even have to fight against Wei Chong. Seems like I have to get serious too. I'm a bit excited. After so many years I can finally bring out my true strength. I am really looking forward to it in a few days' time. On the other side, Jiang Wuyu found the other two family heads and told them what happened. One of them was called Fu Wen and the other was called Long Chu. The two of them were the strongest existences in the 9 provinces and 4 seas. After all, they were family heads and their strength was unquestionable. They were both high gods. Fu Wen's expression was slightly grave as he said softly, "There are still a few days before the seal ends. Can we save Dong Huang Jishang?" "I'm afraid it's a little difficult," Long Chu said coldly. His whole person seemed a little cold, as if he wouldn't smile at anyone. Jiang Wuyu nodded and said, "That's right. This man was able to kill Dong Huangji with a single slap. His strength is not something we can fight against. If we go and ask for him, I'm afraid we won't die in the hands of the Hull Master, but in his hands. If that's the case, then we can only fight," Fu Wen said solemnly. After hearing that, the 3 of them remained silent. Fighting is no different from dying. But if they didn't fight, they would still die. There wasn't much of a difference between the two. Perhaps if the 3 of them worked together, they might have a sliver of hope. However, if they were to split up, there was no doubt that they would die. The 3 of them looked at each other and seemed to have made a decision. As the peak existences of this continent, if they didn't go up, who would? "We need to be prepared," Jiang Wuyu said solemnly. Fu Wen and Long Chu nodded their heads. "Let's go back and prepare. This is a life-and-death battle," Long Chu coldly said and took the lead to disappear from the stone bench. Fu Wen nodded at Jiang Wuyu and disappeared from sight as well. Jiang Wuyu sighed deeply and looked at the sky. He knew that the Hall Master would come out one day. However, he didn't expect it to be so soon. These few days would probably be the most difficult days for the 3 of them. But there was nothing they could do. Should they run away? It wasn't that they didn't think about it. However, as a powerful being, they also had their dignity. Running away was out of the question. In a rocky hill in Tangzhou there were all kinds of stones with strange shapes. But in a place like this they didn't seem that important. However, these stones were indeed the key to sealing the Hall Master. They weren't ordinary stones. They were the stones that suppressed the Hall Master underground and prevented him from coming out. However, 3 figures stood on top of the rocks. These 3 people were naturally Jiang Wuyu, Long Chu and Fu Wen. The weather today wasn't very good. It was drizzling, but for the 3 deities, the raindrops were evaporated by the strong airflow before they could even land on them. Although there are only 3 of us, we might as well give it a try. It would be even better if we could strengthen the seal, Long Chu said coldly. His tone was still calm and composed. After all, they weren't scared. Jiang Wuyu and Fu Wen nodded. Although they didn't believe it themselves, they still had to give it a try. If one looked down from the sky, they would see that the 3 people were standing at the edge of the spell formation. However, there was a corner that was empty. That was Dong Huangji. It was a pity that he didn't come today. In the name of the heavens, bless the world. Might of the earth, suppress the evil soul. The 3 people raised their hands high and shouted with a strong aura. This reinforcement didn't come from their strength, but from the power of faith that the entire 9 provinces and 5 seas had for the 4 great families. However, there probably weren't many members of the Donghuang clan left now. When the news spread, everyone's impression of the Donghuang clan fell to the bottom. They didn't expect the Donghuang clan to be so evil that they raised their children like pigs and dogs. Yet they actually respected them. What the hell? The 3 people also knew that even if Donghuangji came today, it wouldn't help. Along with the 3 people's shouts, a ray of light descended from the sky. The 3 people stared at the ray of light. They had seen it many times, but this time it was clearly different. It wasn't as thick as before, it was much thinner and even the color was much dimmer. The three people didn't expect that just one person missing would be so serious. The seal had at least decreased by 50%. Along with the injection of the ray of light, the surrounding stones started shining, but the aura that they were emitting was still very weak. Just as the three people were feeling helpless, a few figures suddenly appeared in the sky. These people were naturally Luo Qin, and Wei Chong was also among them. Jiang Wuyu looked over coldly and said gravely, "Indestructible Shrines people." Jiang family had good eyesight, you guessed it correctly. Luo Qin laughed lightly. He didn't have any intention of stopping them and allowed them to reinforce the seal. Fu Wen and Long Chu's expressions darkened. These people are all from Indestructible Shrine. Their strength is definitely not ordinary. What are you all trying to do? Fu Wen asked gravely. Luo Qin said faintly, "Nothing much, you all continue with what you are doing, we will wait here for the palace master to break through the seal." The three people didn't say anything after hearing what Luo Qin said. They looked at each other and they could see the heaviness in each other's eyes. Just what are these people trying to do? Since they are already here, why aren't they making a move? After a while, all of the ray of light was injected into the seal. However, not only did the three people not feel happy, they became even more grave. Because the seal was only reinforced a little, it was very disadvantageous to the current situation. End of this chapter. Chapter 1250. Everyone, you've worked hard. Do you want to take a break and enjoy your last moments? Fallen Dust smiled slightly, appearing extremely confident. This confidence, of course, came from the powerful temple master. But now they still had to rely on Wei Chong. Long Chu said coldly, "If you want to fight, bring it on." Patriarch Long, you've misunderstood. The temple master is about to appear, so we naturally won't interfere. It's good to let the temple master exercise. I hope you won't disappoint the temple master. Fallen Dust had his own plans. The temple master was about to break the seal, so he naturally had to see blood. If they killed them all, the temple master would probably not be happy. Hearing Fallen Dust's words, the three could not help but shiver. The temple master had been sealed in the previous generation. Dong Huangji's father had also died in the war, but this death had firmly sealed the temple master, which was considered a good thing. Although they could do anything for strength, when it came to the point of death they could still sacrifice their lives. This was really extreme. The three did not say anything. They stood in the void, waiting for the temple master to arrive, and then making their final struggle. This spirit was admirable. The drizzle seemed to be getting heavier, making the atmosphere even more solemn. The surroundings were filled with rustling sounds. Long Chu looked at Fallen Dust's side. There were actually two undead looking gloomy and uncomfortable. Patriarch Jiang, it seems like it's about time, Fu Wen said in a low voice. Jiang Wuyu nodded. The three of them had come early, so they were definitely prepared. To win, they first had to have a formation. For such a life and death situation, the three did not hide anything. They told each other everything they knew and then used the strongest formation to deal with it. So when they came, the formation had already been set up and they only needed to activate it. Great Sorrow Cloud Incantation. This was the Long family's top-notch formation. It could even suppress gods. Its main function was to ruthlessly suppress the opponent so that they could not use their full strength. Although the formation's function was simple, there were very few formations that could suppress gods. So few that only the Long family had such a formation. The three immediately separated, their hands emitting golden light. Golden runes appeared in the pile of rubble, emitting a thick aura that enveloped the rubble. Behind Long Chu, a huge illusion vaguely appeared. This was a Buddha statue. A divine aura washed over him. The Buddha's attribute was light, which was the natural nemesis of the undead. Although Death Mage and Death Assassin were powerful, this kind of formation that was able to suppress a superior god made them feel uncomfortable. After all, their attributes were mutually exclusive. There was nothing he could do about it. Yi Hua himself belonged to the undead race, and thus Yi Hua had a weakness as well, and that was the holiness. Just like the aura that this Buddha statue was emitting out, it was definitely capable of making Yi Hua feel uncomfortable. Wei Chong could feel the movement of the two skeletons behind him, but he did not make any movements. Death Mage was, after all, a master mage. He immediately enveloped his entire body with a black barrier, and at the same time he also helped his little brother to cast a black barrier. Only then did he feel slightly better. However, this kind of protective shield is not something that can be used all the time. However, Death Mage can feel that the aura that this Buddha statue is emitting out is becoming stronger and stronger. To the undead, this was double the damage and could easily destroy them. The three of them saw that the undead in the Temple of Indestructible were in pain. They had a feeling that they were indeed very strong and even they were in pain. This kind of self-consolation was fine, but they soon realized that the other team's main force didn't react at all. Wei Chong could feel that the aura was powerful, but he could directly ignore it. After all, the other team's strength was right there. Fallen Dust and Lord Ming were definitely not as strong as Wei Chong, and their strength was not much weaker than the few family heads. If they were stronger than the 3 family heads, they would have long come over to destroy the Temple of Indestructible God Wei Chong. The reason why Fallen Dust was so confident was because Wei Chong was here. What a powerful formation. Fallen Dust laughed in a low voice. He agreed with the other party's strength. These 3 people are indeed worthy of admiration. Even though they knew that they were going to die, they still didn't hesitate. Jiang Wuyu and the others didn't say anything, and they were unable to calm down for a long time. Clear Heart Formation. Jiang Wuyu shouted out gravely. This time it was Fallen Dust's turn to be shocked, and even that Lord Ming was shocked. According to convention, one cannot add another formation to a formation. However, this was a formation. This was unprecedented, which was why the 2 of them were so shocked. This was one of Jiang Wuyu's trump cards. Clear Heart Formation could be added onto any formation. Its purpose was to strengthen our battle strength and weaken the local strength. However, when stacked with the Great Compassion Cloud incantation, it was still a power that couldn't be underestimated. It could greatly weaken the local strength and strengthen our battle strength. Sword Art. Fu Wen shouted angrily, and his hands quickly formed seals. A white cloud condensed in the sky, and it was as if a heavenly eye had been opened. A sword hum pierced through the earth, and it directly descended with a powerful aura. This was a huge sword that was 300 meters long, and there were strange markings carved on the body of the sword, which gave off a dangerous feeling. However, this sword directly stabbed into the center of the formation. All of a sudden, the 2 formations were strengthened. That illusory Buddha statue seemed to have materialized, and a buzzing sound rang out in the air. This was a declaration of death to evil. Pa! The Death Mage and Death Assassin's shields instantly disappeared, and terrifying screams came from their mouths. They couldn't withstand this holy attribute at all, and to them this was a fatal injury. Trash, Wei Chong said in a low voice, and directly kept his 2 subordinates. Lord Ming, who was at the side, coldly snorted. Fallen Dust glanced at him but didn't say anything. Meanwhile, Drunken Cry slightly furrowed his brows, and he looked at Wei Chong with doubt. Wei Chong gave Drunken Cry a mysterious smile, and this caused Drunken Cry to hurriedly retract his gaze. Sword Art was one of Fu Wen's trump cards, and its effect was to strengthen the effects of the formations. This was simply a perfect match, and it allowed the 2 formations to display their full potential. However, other than strengthening the formations, there was also the sword formation that could be used to attack the enemy, and of course, it had to be activated. These 3 formations complemented each other, and it was able to make the Palace Master suffer as much as possible. However, this was only one of the trump cards of the 3 family masters. To be able to become a huge family in the 9 provinces and 5 seas, it was impossible for them to not have some trump cards. Right now, Fallen Dust's expression was a bit grave. Seems like I have still underestimated them. At the same time, Fallen Dust acknowledged his decision, and if Wei Chong wasn't here today, it would be hard to say. Wei Chong appeared very indifferent. One of the 7 deadly sins, that wasn't a joke. After releasing these trump cards, the 3 family masters felt a bit more at ease, because they saw the grave expressions on each other's faces. End of this chapter. Chapter 1251. The 2 undead were gone, but that man was very strange. Until now he was still smiling without any sense of danger. But at that moment, the ground began to shake. As the ground shook, the expressions of the 3 family heads became incomparably grave, and the trace of calmness they had just now also disappeared. However, Luo Qin and the rest were all excited. After waiting for so many years, the Palace Master was finally going to appear. They had waited for this day for too long. Cracks began to appear on the shaking ground, and these cracks extended endlessly, letting out ear-piercing creaking sounds. The pouring rain seemed to be frightened, and the rain gradually stopped. Even the dark clouds in the sky were scared away. The entire air was filled with an indescribable terror. From the cracks on the ground, a horrifying pressure seeped out and everyone felt it. It was still that familiar smell. Luo Qin, Lord Ming and Drunken Cry all slowly knelt down. Wei Chong smiled and copied them. But to Jiang Wuyu and the rest this was a declaration of death. However, the shaking ground gradually calmed down, and the dark clouds in the sky condensed again. Violent rain poured down, accompanied by the sound of thunder and lightning, resounding throughout the world. Suddenly, a hand stretched out from the cracks. This hand was covered with mud, but that was not the main point. The main point was that on those 5 fingers there were all stones. Diamonds? Or gems? That was not known. But Wei Chong felt that this was a thick aura of a nouveau riche. 5 fingers pressed on the wet mud, and it was just such a simple action. Jiang Wuyu and the rest's expressions sank, and they all prepared to attack. But at this moment a golden light appeared, and it was a little bright. A golden crown appeared in the air. On the crown there were also many colorful stones embedded. It seemed that this palace master was really interested in stones. The 3 swallowed their saliva and their heartbeats quickened a little. Along with the crown gradually rising up, everyone could see the face of the crown. This face was very ordinary, not handsome nor ugly, but it gave people a creepy feeling. That pair of eyes seemed to be emitting a bloodthirsty light, and his whole body was emitting a bloody smell. The man's other hand was placed on the wet ground and his face was very calm. That pair of eyes stared at the 3 people as if he wanted to tear the 3 people in front of him apart. But at this moment, an accident happened. Ah! The temple lord screamed. He wanted to push himself up with both hands, but the soil was too loose, so he pressed himself down and fell back into the crevice. Everyone could even hear him. Plop! At this moment, a flock of crows flew across the sky. Croak, croak, croak. The entire arena was filled with an awkward atmosphere. How were they supposed to fight anymore? There was no need to fight anymore. It was too embarrassing. But Falling Dust said with a smile, "Palace Master still likes to play." Play? Wei Chong was confused. At this moment Wei Chong felt it. A figure appeared behind the 3 of them. Wasn't that the Hall Master? He wore a golden robe with brin stones inlaid on it. Even his boots were golden. As for the pair of gloves, they were all made of brin stones. This was probably the upgraded version of the Infinity Gloves. "Hey," the temple master greeted him in a disdainful tone. However, it was this "hey" that made the 3 people's eyeballs almost pop out. It appeared behind them. Why didn't I feel anything at all? The 3 hurriedly distanced themselves from the temple master and took out the weapons that they were proud of. Those weapons were simply colorful, and with a single look, one could tell that they were high-grade goods. "You are the temple master?" Fu Wen questioned gravely. "I didn't expect that the temple master would actually be so pompous. Look at the temple master that's dressed in gold." "That's right, why did you ask such an idiotic question? Why don't we have a conversation that has a high IQ?" The temple master had a look of curiosity and expectation on his face. This expression caused the 3 to be very puzzled. This is different from what we imagined. Shouldn't the temple master be a berserk man? The kind that would kill whenever he comes out. Why is he still in the mood to chat? Long Chu said coldly, "Do you even have IQ?" The temple master went into a daze, then suddenly pointed at Long Chu and said with a smile, "Brat, I like you." Wei Chong. This kind of confession came too suddenly, causing Wei Chong to feel horrified. No, this is turning a thriller film into a comedy thriller film. As the person involved, Long Chu was also very astonished. This man actually dared to say such shameless words. This is simply shameless. However, Jiang Wuyu was thinking, I wonder what kind of like this is, the kind of like that I have to bend over. This is a formation. Are you all the descendants of those few families? The temple master felt the aura of the formation and asked with doubt. However, if one were to listen carefully, one would be able to hear that the temple master's tone carried a trace of killing intent and unwillingness. The 3 did not speak. The temple master rubbed his palms together and said lightly, "Even if you don't say, I also know. It's not that I haven't seen this kind of formation before back then, your elders also used it to deal with me. Unfortunately, they succeeded." The corner of Wei Chang's mouth slightly twitched. "This temple master has indeed refreshed my understanding of him. This is a bit interesting." However, to Luo Qin and Lord Ming, they seemed to have already gotten used to it. The temple master's personality is just like this. While walking coquettishly, he would take off the enemy's belt. Hearing what the temple master said, the three were delighted in their hearts. Seems like this formation is effective. I lied to you all, you even believed this, idiots. The temple master suddenly laughed loudly, appearing to be very happy. The three's expressions stiffened. This temple master is really mischievous to the extreme. However, being able to see you all, I am at ease. The temple master suddenly said with incomparable sadness. Jiang Wuyu asked gravely, what do you mean? For you all to appear, it means that your fathers are all dead. You all are truly stupid. The temple master stretched out his index finger, seemingly feeling that his hair was a bit itchy, but he felt that it was impolite to take off the crown, so he poked his index finger into the crown through the gap. However, after he poked his index finger into the crown, his index finger got stuck. Awkward. This kind of awkward atmosphere appeared again. Could it be that this happened as well? Wei Chong asked confusedly. Luo Chen cried out involuntarily, This seems to be an accident. Wei Chong shook his head. This is really too careless. Right now the temple master was pulling out his index finger and he casually said to the three, I let you all watch a joke, it was a mistake. Wait for me to pull out my index finger, then I will beat you all to death. The three, such arrogant words. Have you eaten garlic? Finally, the temple master carefully pulled out his index finger, let out a heavy breath and once again wore the crown. End of this chapter. Chapter 1252. The palace master's gaze turned cold as he stared at the three of them. The three of them had already assumed an attacking stance. Look, is it crooked? The palace master held onto his crown and asked. The three of them had the same thought in their minds. I really want to beat him to death. Speak. The palace master held onto his crown and appeared to be very serious. This meant that he was a respectable person. Fu Wen swallowed his saliva. It's a bit crooked. Left or right? A bit to the left. A bit more, a bit more. A bit more to the right. A bit less, a bit more to the right, a bit more to the back, it's done. The palace master seemed to have completed a huge task and let out a breath. Thank you, you guys are really good people. Good people should be rewarded. Don't meet me again in your next life. The three of them shouted out angrily and released all of their strength. The world seemed to be able to feel the three's anger and killing intent. Violent winds blew and the color of the sky instantly became much dimmer. The heavy downpour disappeared, and what replaced it was waves of rumbling sounds that seemed as if the entire ground was going to explode. Good. As expected of the descendants of the four great families. Please allow me to take a shit, you guys should know how many years I have endured this shit. Luo Chen. Bring me some paper. Yes. Palace Master. Jiang Wuyu and the others watched as the Palace Master took the paper, ran behind a huge rock, took off his pants and squatted down. My God. Why? How did my father seal me back then? Right now I seem to be committing suicide, so I released all of my aura, and you are telling me that you want to take a shit. Is there something wrong with you? Other than the killing intent and oppressiveness in the air, there was suddenly an additional vile stench. This was a pile of shit that had been suppressed for tens of thousands of years. That kind of stench was simply enough to make one's hair stand on end. To Jiang Wuyu and the others who had just eaten breakfast, this was simply the strongest poison. I want to vomit. Drunken Ming couldn't take it anymore. However, Luo Chen pressed on to Drunken Ming and said gravely, Drunken Ming. You can't vomit, this is the aura of the Palace Master. You have to experience it with a grateful heart. Within this aura there is a faint taste of knowledge. Wei Chang's face darkened. T, this is smelly. To actually let you speak of such a great principle, look at that Drunken Ming who actually believed in it. Drunken Ming closed his eyes and sniffed the air, but that face of his that had already turned green. I'm about to be unable to hold on for much longer. Wei Chong felt that Drunken Cry had swallowed his vomit again. Faster, Xikemi. I feel like vomiting. This is the most disgusting team that I Wei have ever seen. Fuck, this fellow wouldn't go and eat shit later, right? However, Jiang Wuyu and the others didn't feel good either. They could even hear the filthy voice spiraling down and emitting a foul stench. Finally, seeing that the hall master was cleaning up the mess, the trio heaved a sigh of relief. I'm sorry, I have been holding it in for too long, it's a bit smelly. The palace master waved his hand towards the three people. However, the three people immediately looked towards the palace master's hand. I really don't want to fight with him anymore. This is too disgusting. Do you want to use your own shit as a weapon? So then fine, I admit defeat. The palace master flew to a spot not far away from the three of them, and his expression turned grave again. However, the three of them didn't believe that the palace master would say something weird. It's definitely going to be like this. Don't be fooled by his outer appearance. Aren't you all going to prepare? The palace master asked confusedly. Like how I'll believe you all, you are extremely evil. Seems like you all are going to accept your death, then. I'm going to beat you all to death. Right after finished speaking, the palace master's figure disappeared. Jiang Wuyu and the others were completely unable to react. Why did this palace master suddenly become so serious? Long Chu looked at the fist that was gradually becoming bigger in front of him, and he wanted to stretch out his hand to block the fist or take out his artifact. However, the palace master's speed was too fast, and before I could even raise my hand, the fist had already landed onto my face. Afterward, I no longer have any intuition. Bang! The fist released a berserk airwave, but because the fist was too strong, Long Chu's head directly exploded, and the primordial spirit that was inside the head was also shattered. Instant kill with a single punch. Yi Hua had killed Dong Huangxi with a single slap earlier, but he had controlled his strength very well and didn't smash Dong Huangxi's face. However, the palace master smashed Dong Huangxi's face with a single punch. Long Chu died just like that. This was something that Jiang Wuyu and Fu Wen didn't expect. It happened too quickly, and they weren't able to react at all. Is this palace master really that abnormal? However, Jiang Wuyu was thinking in his heart, is this palace master or that man from before the palace master is abnormal? I really don't know. I didn't control myself for a moment. I didn't want to kill him, I just wanted to scare him a bit. The palace master flung away the blood on his hand, and with a tone that carried a bit of innocence, expressing that I didn't kill him on purpose. Jiang Wuyu shouted out angrily, if I continue to believe you, then I will change my surname to yours. Spiritual rush. Jiang Wuyu shouted out angrily, and the formation beneath his feet immediately shone brightly, and a dense aura wrapped around the palace master. Shock could be seen in the palace master's eyes. You all. What is this thing? Jiang Wuyu said coldly, this was specially made for you. Double formation and sword arts. Together with this spiritual rush, it will be able to completely suppress you. After finished speaking, Jiang Wuyu looked towards Fu Wen. What are you still waiting for? Hurry up. Fu Wen came back to his senses and formed a sword art with both hands, and the huge sword's body emitted a red glow. Swoosh! Countless small swords appeared on the sword's body and instantly, sword intent surged, each sword emitting a terrifying energy. This caused the palace master to be extremely shocked. How did you all know? Fu Wen seemed to have already seen hope. How could it be? You seem to be lying every single time. But when you were talking about this formation, I can see the fear in your eyes. Because you were afraid. Jiang Wuyu replied, feeling very pleased. Back then his father had used this move to defeat the palace master. This time he could do it too. No. This palace master isn't afraid of your moves. Back then it was a mistake. This time, it definitely won't happen again. The palace master shouted angrily with a terrified tone, and his whole body started to struggle, but no matter how hard he tried he couldn't break free. Even as he struggled, the formation emitted lightning, forming many electric whips that lashed at him. Crackle crackle. You're just an arrogant palace master and you still dare to shit. Go and eat shit. Fu Wen shouted coldly as if he wanted to shout out all the fear in his heart. When Long Chu died just now it was too terrifying. That kind of result where he couldn't even react made one's hair stand on end. If that fist had landed on his head just now the outcome might have been the same. But now. It wouldn't happen again. It was only a moment of carelessness that allowed the palace master to succeed, but this time he wouldn't hold back anymore. You bastards! How dare you plot against this palace master? What are you all still looking at? Come and save me. The palace master shouted at Luochen, his heart-wrenching appearance really shocking everyone. End of this chapter. Chapter 1253. It's useless. No one can save you. What awaits you is blood and death. Your arrogance will bury your life. For the next tens of thousands of years, you will continue to sleep here. Your believers will be tied to a burning rack and burned to ashes. Fu Wen opened his arms and his powerful voice came out from his mouth. Wei Chang's blood was boiling. It was a pity that this guy didn't become a teacher. Jiang Wuyu was shocked to hear this. You actually thought of this in such a short time? It must be fake. Hey, did you just think of this? Jiang Wuyu asked curiously. No, I thought of it last night. I didn't expect to have a use for it. How is it? Not bad, right? Fu Wen was a little proud. He thought that he wouldn't be able to use it today. Jiang Wuyu nodded. Not bad. This victory declaration is very domineering. It should be like this. But those people are a little tricky, Fu Wen whispered. Jiang Wuyu said in a low voice, I feel that there's something wrong with that smiling guy. He won't be easy to deal with. Yeah, is his face cramping or something? The temple master saw the two chatting and screamed, It hurts. I'm going to kill you. Let me go if you have the guts. Trash. I thought you were very powerful, but in the end this is all you amount to. Die. Fu Wen roared and tens of thousands of flying swords attacked the temple master with a scorching aura. The hall master revealed a look of despair as he roared, You traitors, this hall master is about to die, but you actually ignored me. Even if this hall master becomes a ghost, I will not let you go. And you too, if this hall master was not careless, I would have killed you with a single punch. Vile people intoxicated by success. Jiang Wuyu laughed loudly. Temple master, you just came out to take a dump and then went back to hold it in. I'm afraid this time, you won't be able to take a dump anymore. Just you wait. One day I'll come out and kill all of you. The temple master roared. That kind of despair and anger was too tragic. Looking at the countless flying swords, the temple master let out a cry as his heart was pierced by the swords. Jiang Wuyu was a little puzzled. Why do you think the temple master's subordinates didn't do anything? Did they really betray us? I don't think so. He even knelt down earlier, Fu Wenqingsheng said. He was feeling puzzled as well. Just like that, Wei Chong watched as the palace master's heart was pierced by 10,000 swords. This palace master was such a gray color. Were they taken care of by these small fries? Then why would Wei Chong still be a spy and play tricks? What's going on? Wei Chong asked curiously. Falling Dust laughed softly and said, It's fine. The hall master just came out. It's very normal for him to want to play. Can you understand? You call this a game? This hall master was a little abnormal. Wei Chong decided to continue watching. However, Lord Ming said in a low voice, What's wrong? Seeing that the temple master is dying, you have an idea? Lord Ming, you've misunderstood. I'm just worried about the palace master. I'm afraid that something might have happened to the palace master, Wei Chong explained with a smile. Humph, I won't believe you. Lord Ming seemed to have made up his mind and he wouldn't change it even if he was beaten to death. All right, the hall master has appeared. Do you still want to quarrel? Hall master saw it, where is the propriety? Luo Chen shouted coldly. These two people really did not know the rules. Lord Ming stopped talking. Wei Chong continued to watch the battlefield. At this moment, there were at least countless holes on the hall master's body. Blood flowed all over the ground and he weakly fell to the ground, wailing. How dare you all? You actually injured me like this. The hall master fell to the ground very weak as though he was about to die. Wei Chong felt a little strange. This hall master shouldn't be like this. A layer of black mist condensed in Wei Chang's eyes, and then he smiled slightly. So that's how it was. Jiang Wuyu and Fu Wen landed in front of the hall master with smiles on their faces. This was a little too easy. Although it was easy, at least they had severely injured the hall master, which was a good thing. It was a pity that Long Chu had accidentally been killed. Otherwise he would be very happy now. The two of them looked at Long Chu's corpse at the same time. An upper god's head had been smashed by a punch, and his primordial spirit hadn't even had time to come out. Hall master, look at your subordinates. They're all ignoring you. What a failure, Fu Wen said indifferently. He glanced at Falling Dust and the others. He had a strange feeling, but he couldn't put his finger on it. Jiang Wuyu frowned and looked at Falling Dust and the others. He had a bad feeling in his heart. Let's get rid of them quickly. I feel a little strange, Jiang Wuyu said in a low voice. This sentence also hit the bottom of Fu Wen's heart. They had to get rid of them quickly. Don't you have anything to say? The hall master asked weakly. Continue to sleep. Jiang Wuyu shouted coldly, preparing to apply a seal on Fu Wen. However, at this time the hall master laughed. That's not it. I still want to hear what you have to say, but that's it. I'm a little disappointed. As the hall master said this, Jiang Wuyu and Fu Wen's expressions changed, and they quickly pulled away. Jiang Wuyu pulled away, but Fu Wen's leg was grabbed by the hall master. What? You want to run? How's my acting? The hall master's figure changed again. Once again the golden robe shone with golden light. There wasn't even a crease on it, let alone any injuries. Just a small trick and you all believed it. How sad, the hall master said indifferently. That mischievous smile on his face instantly disappeared, replaced by a bloodthirsty one. This was the real hall master, and the one just now was definitely a fake. The hall master had only used a little bit of a facade. Wei Chong could see through it, but Jiang Wuyu and Fu Wen couldn't. The current family head is really weak. The hall master's left hand suddenly emitted a purple flame. Of course, it was a deviant flame. Fu Wen's expression changed and his whole body emitted a violent aura. Even so, it was of no use. Death is only an instant. Don't be afraid. Don't ever see me again in your next life. Ah! Fu Wen let out a miserable scream and his whole body instantly started burning. It was terrifying. The screams gradually disappeared, and in the blink of an eye Fu Wen was burned to nothing. His primordial spirit flew out. The hall master actually spat at the primordial spirit. However, this different spit accurately stuck to the primordial spirit. The primordial spirit was like the soul, and this spit actually had a strong corrosive effect. Fu Wen's screams resounded between heaven and earth, causing everyone to shudder. Was this the hall master? Right now Jiang Wuyu didn't know what he was doing, where he was, and what exactly was he doing. One's head exploded with a single punch and the other was burned to death, and his primordial spirit was killed by the spit. Just what kind of person is this? Hall master. Is this the legendary hall master, such a person? Right now Jiang Wuyu didn't even have the slightest bit of desire to fight. The difference between them is too big. End of this chapter. Chapter 1254. This kind of gap wasn't something that could be achieved through self-consolation. It was a kind of courage that didn't even have the courage to lift one's hand. Jiang Wuluo looked up at the sky and fatigue appeared on her face. For so many years she had to come here to seal once every month. Every time she came here she would have to worry. She couldn't even eat well or sleep well. After reinforcing it, he was still thinking about how long he could drag it out. Even though he had already made preparations, but what's wrong? Are you going to give up just like that? Are you not going to struggle anymore? The palace master was a little unhappy. He hated it when his enemies gave up on him. Look at me. I've been sealed by you for thousands of years. When have I ever given up? Never give up on yourself. If you give up on yourself, who can save you? No one. In this world you can only rely on yourself. The palace master clenched his fists tightly, and his tone was a little excited, as if he had recalled something. Wei Chong said in a low voice, "Looks like Palace Master is also a man with a story." Yes, the Palace Lord had an unforgettable experience when he was young. Falling Dust murmured, as if he had also sunk into his memories. Looks like this Luo Chen had followed the Hall Master since young. Otherwise how would he know? Is it convenient to talk about it? Wei Chong asked curiously. Lord Ming directly refused. No way. But Falling Dust said, of course. Falling Dust, are you going to tell him about the Palace Master? Lord Ming shouted. Wei Chong is now the Hall Master's subordinate, so it's fine for him to know a bit more. He can also gain a better understanding of the Hall Master's character, so he won't anger the Hall Master in the future. Falling Dust's words were quite reasonable, and only Drunken Cry agreed. Lord Ming said again, you will regret this. Luo Chen ignored him. Wei Chong was the future Hall Master's general, so he had to carry his trust. If he did not say it now, Wei Chong might have other thoughts in his heart. However, even if he didn't say it, Wei Chong had his own thoughts. As a qualified spy, Wei Chong worked his heart out and even deceived everyone. After all, back then Wei Chong had felt a sense of danger. He had been tricked and wanted to know who was behind these people. After all, the enemy was indeed powerful, especially with the mark on their foreheads. They almost lost control, but they still underestimated themselves. At least they weren't controlled. In order to obtain Luo Chen's trust, not only did he beat up Zhu Tian and his wife, but he also shouted at his honor. However, I, Wei Chong, know that the current his honor is different from the past. His mind is clear and he definitely knows that he is just pretending to be in the enemy's camp to find out the actual situation. However, what did Yi Hua know? Wei Chang's acting skills were superb and he portrayed that traitor to the fullest, to the point that almost everyone believed him. Wei Chang, when the palace lord was young, he was a monkey, Fallen Dust said indifferently. Hall. Wei Chang looked at the hall master in the air. Indeed, what he had done was no different from playing a monkey. That until Wei Ti of the Hall Tiang. Wei Chang knew that the big Missy must have fallen in love with the palace lord, but she looked down on the palace lord because of his birth. The palace lord swore that he would become stronger. Lord Palace Master isn't the kind of person who tries to curry favor with others. He decisively rejected the eldest young lady's confession of love. This is where Lord Palace Master's charm lies. Fallen Dust was extremely emotional. Wait. Thinking back to back then when I opened a bar with his honor, there were a lot of young ladies who came to woo me, and some of them even put a price on me. All of them wanted to obtain his honor's love, but his honor rejected all of them. Take note, this is a complete rejection. However, the first young mistress threatened to kill herself, and the palace lord persuaded her with kind words. In the end, she jumped into the pond that was 5 feet deep and the palace lord jumped in as well. This woman immediately found out the palace lord's intentions. The hall master had no choice but to marry this eldest young miss and play with her like a monkey. Wei Chang Wuyu. Was the monkey really that important? Not long after that, a princess also took a fancy to the palace master who was acting like a monkey. That princess was rude and unreasonable, and humiliated the palace master hundreds of times. Every day the palace master would act like a monkey for her to see. The palace lord had no choice but to suffer the princess's humiliation. But I know that the palace lord is not happy. Wei Chang thought to himself, like hell I'll believe you. You're probably dying from pleasure. In the end, Hall Master became the emperor's son-in-law, but I knew that Hall Master was not happy. However, not long after, a powerful female sovereign took a fancy to the palace master. Wei Chang knew that the palace lord was just a woman's merchandise. How pitiful. Luochen, it's about time, Lord Ming couldn't help but say. However, the more Luochen spoke, the more excited he became. I haven't gossiped about the palace master for a long time, and thus my words couldn't help but float outside. It seems like every subordinate has the heart of a gossipy boss. Yi Hua's subordinates were the same as well. Gossiping about Yi Hua had already become a norm. After the palace master followed the female sovereign, his life became even more painful. Every day he would have sex with the female sovereign, but I know that the palace master was not happy. Every time the palace master was humiliated, he would look at the night sky foolishly. I truly feel sorry for the palace master. While speaking, Luochen seemed like he was about to cry, causing Wei Chang's face to stiffen. Lord Luo, how did you know? Furthermore, you know it so clearly. Wei Chang asked curiously. Luochen said gravely, because I am that monkey. Wei Chang's expression immediately changed. So you are that monkey? My God, you have become a spirit, no wonder you dress up so weirdly. And then, Wei Chang asked curiously. This is much more interesting than me opening a bar with his honor. I wonder what his honor would do if he encountered this kind of thing. And then the female sovereign accompanied the palace master to act like a monkey. Wei Chang was puzzled, then asked doubtfully, is acting like a monkey that important? To the palace master, acting like a monkey is his only pleasure. Just that, in the past he was acting like a monkey but now he is playing with people. Luo Chen's expression changed from regret to excitement. After all, the palace master did not play with me anymore. Wei Chang nodded his head. From what happened just now, I can tell that the palace master is very good at playing with people. In a sense, this palace master and his honor aren't that different. They both like to make people go from despair to hope and then from hope to despair. They are very similar. However, Wei Chang felt that the palace master and Luo Chen shouldn't be able to become good friends. There was one more thing that Wei Chang had been looking into, and that was why the palace master was targeting me. Furthermore, the palace master had already arranged everything, and was just waiting for me to take the bait. Wei Chang was puzzled and asked Luo Chen, but Luo Chen smiled and didn't say anything. Wei Chang didn't continue asking about it and he could only wait for the palace master to appear. When the palace master appears, I will inform his honor and annihilate the palace master in one go. Wei Chong was even fantasizing that his honor would give me an award, then praise me in front of everyone. After that, I will be a bit more humble and enjoy the envy of others. Therefore, Wei Chong decided to go with the flow and look into what exactly was going on. End of chapter. Chapter 1255. You made it seem as if you were going to succeed, which was why I used such a move. Who would have thought that you wouldn't succeed at all? It's fine if you didn't succeed, but you even threw such an unstable strange flame at me. Do you think it's a joke? At this moment the temple master could not stop the car at all and directly crashed into it. And right now the palace lord only wanted to curse out in his heart. Kunambi. Boom. A berserk explosion immediately rang out, and Yi Hua could even feel that the entire air was trembling. The explosion of a strange flame that failed to fuse with a strange flame is truly terrifying. It is even more powerful than that Bobo ball from just now. Seems like I, the Supreme Overlord, am not suited to fuse with strange flames. Forget it. I won't do this anymore in the future. I have wasted 2 kinds of strange flames in one go. It's not worth it at all. To me, these strange flames aren't the strongest. I don't rely on deviant flames to make a living. Along with the explosion of the strange flame, Yi Hua felt that the space around him had paused. However, this was not a good news because after pausing, the space around him would shatter into pieces. Who knows if the space around him would be able to withstand the shattering of the space around him, and if the space around him was unable to withstand the shattering of the space around him, that would be bad. Palace Master, this, Wei Chong, don't worry. Everything is under the control of the Palace Master. Falling dust patted his hand, indicating that Wei Chong could rest assured. Wei Chong almost believed it. Right now Yi Hua was rather shocked. After suffering such an injury, he actually didn't die. As a Palace Master, you deserve the title of Little Cockroach. Good job. When the powerful explosion dissipated, the figure of the Palace Master appeared. His arm was gone. That long whip was also gone, and half of his face was also sliced off, revealing his spotlessly white teeth. But now his white teeth were a little scary. Blood kept flowing out. Right at this moment Wei Chong asked again, "This? Should we go and help?" No need, Palace Master is precisely using this kind of method to deceive the enemy. In a while, Palace Master will counterattack and let the enemy know what is called formidable. Falling dust had a look of worship on his face, causing Wei Chong to really not know what to say. The Palace Master's expression wasn't very good. I was played by this man. Slut. Damn slut. What are you guys still standing there for? Hurry up and come over to help. The Hall Master shouted at Falling Dust. Falling Dust cupped his hands and smiled. Hall Master Hong Wei, this subordinate does not dare to interfere. You. The Hall Master seemed to know that this bastard thought that he was acting, so he didn't come forward to help. Come and help. This Hall Master is serious. Joy flashed in Falling Dust's eyes. It had been a long time since the Hall Master had interacted with him like this. Thinking back, that was something that had happened a long time ago. Palace Master, I'm busy. I won't help you. Good luck, Mwak, Palace Master. Wei Chong was simply about to explode from laughter. Yi Hua didn't know what was going on, but he was a little puzzled. Did all of the Palace Master's subordinates betray him? I only betrayed you, but you have so many traitors. While speaking, Yi Hua brought out his pink fists. There is a kind of thing called beating people, and it is the kind that can beat people to death. When the Palace Master saw Yi Hua's actions, he was a bit alarmed. Falling Dust. Hurry up and help. Wei Chong. Lord Ming. Drunken cry. This subordinate wouldn't dare. Falling Dust took the lead and respectfully shouted. The Hall Master was simply angered to the point that he wanted to kill someone. What else do you all not dare to do? I am going to be beaten to death. Yi Hua twisted his neck and said lightly, prepare to be beaten to death by me. After you die, go down and tell others that I was the one who beat you to death. Perhaps you will still have some face left. After hearing that, the corner of the Hall Master's mouth twitched. Just a while ago I was still talking to Yi Hua, and now the Hall Master is actually talking to me. Yi Hua didn't want to be long-winded anymore. This space is going to collapse soon, and for everyone's safety, I have to quickly get rid of this Hall Master. The strike. Yi Hua shouted out casually, then rushed forward. However, right now the Hall Master was already unable to resist. If he was able to resist, would he still need to call for reinforcements? Yi Hua's right fist fiercely punched onto the left side of the Hall Master's face, causing the hall master's face to become crooked. Under this punch, a powerful aura burst forth, and the aura filled the space that was about to collapse. Is this still a fake? Lord Ming muttered. Falling Dust laughed. Just listen to Hall Master's scream, it sounded so real, I nearly believed it. Wei Chong really couldn't hold it in anymore. Spare me, you idiots. You idiots. The Hall Master let out his final howl, then no longer spoke. After that he became silent and closed himself off. Yi Hua tightly punched the Hall Master twice, and he felt that the Hall Master was about to die. I didn't expect that my strength seems to have increased by quite a bit. This damned strength, it made me become too outstanding. Right now, even without turning his head back, I am able to feel the little gaze of worship from the Empress. Of course there is also the worship from my subordinates. Sigh. Cough cough cough. The Hall Master let out a violent cough. His entire body was already extremely weak. After using 2 big moves he was already completely exhausted, and he basically didn't have any thoughts of surviving. A bunch of idiots. And they are still watching from the side while I, the Hall Master, am about to die. Do you have any last words? Yi Hua asked lightly. The Hall Master laughed bitterly. His tone was very soft. It wasn't that he didn't want to say it out loud, but rather he wasn't able to say it out loud. I am just going to die before you, don't be happy too early. After the Hall Master said this sentence, even more blood flowed out from the Hall Master's body. I am immortal, even if the heavens are gone I will still exist. Yi Hua snorted in disdain. Cursing me to die. You all can only do this. The Hall Master laughed. No one can be immortal. Do you think that I am speaking nonsense? Just that I didn't tell you back then, that fortune teller told me that if I were to die in the hands of a powerful person, then that powerful opponent would also die not long after. How trustworthy is the words of a fortune teller? Basically zero. Yi Hua said in disdain, indicating that I don't believe in things like fate. Fate is something that is grasped in one's own hands. Whether or not one can change one's fate is not something that can be decided by sitting and waiting. Rather, one has to fight for it, even if one has to use unscrupulous means. Yi Hua, you are called Yi Hua, right? The Hall Master said with a slight smile. You speak as if you don't know what my name is. Did Wei Chong not tell you? Yi Hua said coldly. Even at death's door you are still trying to act mysterious. Wei Chong really didn't tell me, but Yi Hua felt that Wei Chong might have told me before. He didn't tell me, it was that fortune teller who told me. I have never told him about this matter because when that fortune teller told me that I might die, I didn't believe it either, and that's why I came to look for you. However, I didn't expect that fortune teller to be so formidable. Yi Hua, I will wait for you in the deepest part of hell. At that time I will definitely win against you. Chapter 1256. Yi Hua was originally very happy, but after hearing this other kind of curse, even I became a bit gloomy. I nearly believed in you. I have seen too many people like this, telling you unrealistic things before death, causing you to live in worry. I dare to ask in this world, who else is capable of shaking me? Come on, you won't be able to see me in your entire life. Yi Hua stretched out his palm, and the palace master's head was ruthlessly grabbed onto Yi Hua's palm. Yi Hua, strong people have their own fate. I will die in your hands, but who will you die in? I am very curious also. My name is Hao Niobi, remember it. You sure talk a lot of bullshit. You are even more awesome. Yi Hua immediately clapped his palm, and the palace master's head immediately exploded. Of course, Yi Hua wouldn't let go of the palace master's primordial spirit and directly destroyed it. All in all, Yi Hua felt that this battle was still very easy. There was no difficulty at all, he just let his guard down for a bit. As for the palace master's final curse, if I believe you, then what difference is there between me and an idiot? At this moment Lord Ming asked, could it be that this is fake? Fallen Dust was a bit stupefied. Right now I don't know if this is real or fake. The palace master's head is gone, and his primordial spirit is also destroyed. The conversation between the two just now was very soft. Other than the two of them, no one else heard it. Wei Chong, Qingsu, make your move. Yi Hua transformed into his human form and said faintly. Wei Chong went into a daze. Doesn't your honor need me to investigate that fortune teller? After all, that is a mystery. Following what Yi Hua said, Fallen Dust and the others turned their heads and looked towards Wei Chong with doubtful gazes. And Wei Chong felt that when the palace master died, the mark on his forehead seemed to have disappeared. Seems like the mark was a trick of the palace master. I thought that it was something else. I knew it. Fallen dust. I knew it. This bastard is a spy. You don't believe me. Lord Ming was the first to react and he shouted at Fallen Dust. After finished speaking, Lord Ming continued shouting, "Do you know that the palace master is dead now? Didn't you say that the palace master was acting? He had played himself to death. You idiot, you actually didn't believe me. Do you regret it now?" Falling Dust had an abrupt expression as he called out softly, "Hall Master, stop playing around. Return it." Luo Chen had always been following the Hall Master. In Luo Chen's heart, the Hall Master was a person who knew how to play. If he didn't play for a day, he would feel uncomfortable all over. But today, Palace Master actually went overboard, and I even thought that, even now, the Palace Master's miserable cry for help was still echoing in his ears, and he was actually laughing. How would I still have the face to meet the Palace Master? Say something. Idiot. Lord Ming shouted at Luo Chen. Earlier on, when the Palace Master had asked for help, he had actually remained indifferent. As a subordinate, this was a dereliction of duty. However, right now Falling Dust fell into a state of deep self-blame. So Wei Chong has been a spy all along. Even Lord Ming was able to see through it, and I foolishly thought that, I'm really so stupid, Lord Luo. Drunken Ming called out in a low voice. He wanted to stretch out his hand and hold on to Luo Chen's hand, but he didn't dare to. Falling Dust raised his head and looked towards Yi Hua with deep hatred in his eyes. Today is the day that the Palace Master is going to come out. However, it is also the day that the Palace Master is going to leave forever. This is not something that I want to see. I'm going to kill you. Falling Dust shot out explosively and a sharp sword materialized in his hand. That kind of madness and roar made people feel emotional. Different standpoints, different thoughts. Towards Falling Dust's current state, Yi Hua was able to understand. However, a win is a win, the loser must die. This kind of thing had happened to me in the past. That's why I reflected on myself. I blamed myself. Yi Hua slowly raised his left hand. Clang. The sharp sword slashed onto Yi Hua's palm, letting out an ear-piercing sound, and a huge shockwave spread outwards. For those who dare to challenge me, I will naturally give respect. I will use absolute strength to kill you. Clang. Clang. The sharp sword in Falling Dust's hand was broken by Yi Hua. The broken sword fell from the sky and it seemed so weak and unwilling. At this moment Falling Dust closed his eyes, because he knew that this was undoubtedly suicide. Yi Hua wouldn't be soft-hearted. If I let the enemy off now, that would be disrespecting the enemy. Yi Hua aimed his right palm towards Falling Dust's face and said faintly, "Exterminate." After saying the word exterminate, a terrifying red flame sprayed out and directly engulfed Falling Dust's head, and even his primordial spirit dissipated. Meanwhile, the red flame rushed into the hole in space and disappeared. Falling Dust's corpse slowly fell onto the ground, and Drunken Cry directly walked over and hugged onto Falling Dust's corpse. Perhaps only by doing this, Drunken Cry dared to hold onto Falling Dust's corpse's palm that still had some residual warmth. "Wei Chong, I'm going to kill you." Lord Ming shouted out angrily, then turned around and rushed towards Wei Chong. However, who was Wei Chong? Lord Ming wasn't Wei Chang's opponent at all. Before Lord Ming's fist could even touch Wei Chong, it was swallowed by Wei Chong. Lord Ming didn't give Lord Ming any chance at all. At this point the matter was more or less over. Wei Chong walked respectfully towards Yi Hua. "Your Honor, subordinate has returned." Yi Hua patted onto Wei Chang's shoulder and said lightly, "You have worked hard. Subordinate only feels honored to be able to work for your honor. Your bootlicking ability is getting more and more formidable." Yi Hua laughed lightly. At this moment Qing Su, who was sitting on Dou Fusher, came over. "Gluttonous monster, I thought that you had betrayed us, so I was preparing to get rid of you. Qing Su, you have become so fat you need to lose some weight." Wei Chong smiled faintly. Wei Chang's personality had changed back. Lose weight? That doesn't exist. In actuality, the temptation of delicacies is much stronger. About that, big brother. I can't carry you anymore. Dou Fusher said weakly. "Carry me. If I fall to my death, you will have to take responsibility." Qing Su said solemnly. Dou Fusher. Yi Hua walked in front of Dong Huang Baiji and held onto her pure white hands. "Are you worried?" "I'm worried." Dong Huang Baiji said tenderly. "Let's go home." Yi Hua lightly caressed onto Dong Huang Baiji's cheek. I feel that my state of mind has improved a bit today. Compared to the supreme position, the people around me are still more important. Mother, wife, child, and a group of loyal subordinates. These are the people that I, the supreme overlord, should be protecting. And let's go home. Dong Huang Baiji said lightly, and her eyes were filled with love. At this moment, Wei Chong walked over and said respectfully, Your Honor's wife, that person? Yi Hua turned his head around and looked towards Drunken Cry. Drunken Cry was currently hugging onto Fallen Dust's corpse and floating in the air. Let's go. Yi Hua said faintly. Soon after, he lightly waved his hand and everyone disappeared from the air, leaving behind only Drunken Cry. While hugging onto Fallen Dust's corpse, Drunken Cry revealed out a poignant smile. Drunken Cry lightly leaned onto Fallen Dust's chest and felt the faint remaining warmth of Fallen Dust's body. Chapter 1257. Inside Wushu Empire's palace, Yi Hua appeared with everyone. For this trip to the 9 provinces and 5 seas, Yi Hua had settled everything. He found Qing Su and Wei Chong, who was acting. He even killed a powerful palace master. However, Yi Hua didn't take the palace master's curse to heart, and he didn't want to take it to heart either. There are too many people who have cursed me, and one more won't make a difference. Some arrogant curses won't come true at all. However, for such a big 9 provinces and 5 seas to be gone just like that, I do feel a bit regretful. The fights between experts will bring harm to the innocent people. I will pray for those kind people, but for those evil people, you all can just go to hell. That is where you all belong. Let's have a meeting. Yi Hua shouted out lightly. This shout wasn't for everyone, it was for 7 deadly sins. After so many years, they are finally gathered together. Although the process was a bit difficult, it was still daunting without any mishaps. Especially this Wei Chang's betrayal, he actually tricked me. One must say his acting is too good. The first to arrive was Zhu Tian. When Zhu Tian saw Wei Chong, his face twitched. Wei Chong. You traitor, I will kill you. You actually dared to hit my wife. However, Pig Liver Donkey dragged Zhu Tian along. Aya, what are you trying to kill? Can't you see that gluttonous monster is back to normal? Brett also appeared, but he didn't give Wei Chong a good look. Even now he still remembers that Wei Chong bullied me. The facts have proven that Wei Chong is stronger than me. Yizizi also came. Yizizi was sucking on a lollipop and walking slowly. She was always wearing a gorgeous princess dress. Everyone, long time no see. When Qing Su saw everyone, he shouted out. Who is this? Why is he so fat? Yizizi muttered. The two of them were simply the cutest size. Yizizi's size was the smallest, while Qing Su's size was the biggest. Qing Su turned his head and looked towards Yizizi. His gaze was also filled with tenderness. This isn't love, this is a type of doting. After all, in the entire team there were only 2 females, Yizizi and Brett. Brett was only interested in Zhu Tian and the others didn't talk to him. Yizizi was different and she could be considered as the person that everyone doted on. Fatty Qing Su, how did you manage to eat so much food into your stomach? This is way too exaggerated. Yizizi couldn't help but say. She even poked Qing Su's stomach. However, Qing Su only chuckled. Only Yizizi would dare to do such a thing. Qing Su wouldn't be angry. If it were Wei Chong or Absolute Heaven trying it out, they would definitely become hostile immediately. F***C. You are Qing Su, I really didn't recognize you at first glance. The pig liver centipede cried out in surprise, pointed at Qing Su and said blankly. Qing Su patted onto his stomach and said with a smile, Pig liver meat, I didn't recognize you at all. You actually became so skinny, but you are still ugly, pig liver macaque. Looking at his subordinates ridiculing each other, Yi Hua felt very gratified in his heart. This is what a big family should be like. Right now Wei Chong was very puzzled. Could it be that his honor doesn't know that I am pretending? Why did they still think that he had betrayed them? Gluttonous monster, I heard that you betrayed us. Why did you come back? I was going to kill you. What a pity. Yizizi pouted and picked up the gravel under her feet. Wei Chong was very speechless. However, he still had to say something. Zhu Tian, Brett, I am truly sorry for what happened that day. At that time I was hiding among the enemy's ranks, and there were people observing me from the side. That's why I had no choice but to injure you too. Wei Chong expressed his apology. Zhu Tian naturally wasn't willing to accept Wei Chang's apology. The meaning behind Wei Chang's words is as if he is able to fight against the two of us alone. That is because you took advantage of me being unprepared. Zhu Xian wasn't willing to accept Wei Chang's apology. Pig Liver Macaque poked the limestone under his feet, then raised his head and looked at the others, then said faintly, I was very weak to begin with. Zhu Xian, Pig Liver Macaque. That's enough. Do you want to have a fight with me? Come on, I am afraid of you. Pig Liver Macaque was waiting for his honor to say these words. Right now, saying these words in front of his honor gave me even more courage. It's a pity that Dongfeng Yuan isn't here. If Big Sister Yuer is here, she would definitely be mesmerized by my figure. Yihua didn't stop Pig Liver Macaque. A team needs this kind of quarreling sound. This is what a team should be like. In the past, when we don't quarrel with each other, we don't care about each other at all. Roar. A dragon's roar resounded throughout the world, and Lai Gu's enormous figure shrouded the sky above Wuxia Empire, then descended down from the sky. Kingsu, you son of a bitch. I am going to bite you. Lai Gu was feeling very gloomy. After so many days and months, I have a wife, yet I am unable to return home. I have to sleep in that valley that is filled with mosquitoes, and I am about to freeze to death. However, the main culprit is this Qingsu. If it wasn't for him, would I be able to transform into my original form and scare a child? At this moment, Yihua had no choice but to stop Lai Gu. Alright, Lai Gu, since Qingsu is back, he will naturally be able to detoxify the poison in your body. Yihua said faintly. Your Honor, he has to compensate me then. Just how many nights and nights have I lost these past few days? Lai Gu was about to cry. That feeling of having a wife but being unable to get close to her, I even want to die. What's the point of having a wife? Qingsu said faintly, recently I have concocted a few non-falling pills, how about I compensate you with this? Hearing that, Yihua went into a daze, but he didn't say anything. After hearing that, Lai Gu thought for a while, then said, alright then, hurry up and detoxify the poison in my body. Not knowing what method Qingsu used, Lai Gu turned into a human form, and it seemed as if he was controlling the human form with his consciousness. Looking at himself turning into a human hand, and even pulling down his crotch to take a look, Lai Gu was extremely excited. I have never been like this before. I hope to become a human, a normal man. Where's the medicine? Lai Gu naturally wouldn't let go of any chance. After having so many wives, I am starting to feel a bit powerless. Luckily, I have recently turned into a dragon and I can finally stop for a while. Looking at Yuhua and the others, they would occasionally come over to take a look at me, that resentment. But you guys don't know, I am feeling terrible in my heart. Lai Gu couldn't wait to hide for a while, but in the end his honor called me and I had no choice but to appear. After seeing Qingsu, I can only act pitiful. After all, a guild is a gossipy guild, and the matter that happened will definitely be spread out. At that time, if Yuhua were to find out about it, she would definitely use domestic violence on me. Yuhua is really different from the time when we were together. She is really savage to the extreme. Here. Qingsu tossed a bottle of medicine to Lai Gu. However, Yihua's gaze had been staring at the bottle of medicine. The facts had proven that a man's masculinity is really unrelated to strength. Even the powerful Yihua had to think about it. Lai Gu happily received the bottle of medicine. Wei Chong, what the hell? Didn't you betray me? Wei Chong didn't speak anymore. I can't be bothered to speak anymore. You guys, we have been together for so long and yet you still think that I betrayed you? At this moment, Yihua said faintly, everyone quiet down for a bit. Gather. Everyone from the 7 deadly sins stood in a row. There isn't anyone in the center. Chapter 1258. Standing at the very front was Wei Chong. Beside Wei Chong was Lai Gu. Next to Lai Gu was Yi Zizi. Next to Yi Zizi was Zhu Tian. Next to Zhu Tian was Brett. Next to Brett was Qingsu. Next to Qingsu was Pig Liver Ting. Yihua swept his gaze across everyone. His gaze was fiery. It has been more than 10 years. I finally gathered all of my subordinates. The last time I saw them was during the final battle. Thinking about it, the memory of them was still fresh in my mind. Right now, I can still clearly remember that they are all standing right in front of me. Only some of them became fat and some of them became thin. This contrast is really interesting. Looking at His Honor's fiery gaze, the subordinates were a little infected. Later on, His Honor is definitely going to say some heroic words to motivate the entire team. Wei Chong was thinking His Honor is definitely thinking about how to praise me. To say in front of everyone, Wei Chong, you have done well this time. In the future, everyone must look up to Wei Chong. Wei Chang's eyes shone brightly. His Honor, don't praise me too much, just average will do. Come, His Honor. Yihua took a deep breath and shouted out gravely. Attention! The subordinates of the 7 deadly sins, at ease. Look to the right. Look to the front. At ease, I will say a few words. Everyone, however, before Yihua could even start speaking, Kaiyun suddenly ran over. His Honor, quickly come and take a look, there are a lot more people in Wushu Empire. Yihua went into a daze. He walked over to Kaiyun's side and looked at the entire Wushu Empire. From what I remember, the streets of Wushu Empire have never been packed with people. But now every single street is packed with people, and those people are quite strong. I can even see the people inside the spirit beast. What situation is this? Yihua asked gravely. At this moment, Luo Ho, who rushed over, said respectfully, His Honor, just a while ago a lot of people suddenly appeared. They claimed to be people from the 9 provinces and 5 seas. Hearing those words, Yihua immediately understood. It should be Meng Yao, after all, only she knows about Wushu Empire. With Meng Yao's personality, she would definitely choose to save people. Where's Meng Yao? Yihua asked. Luo Ho took a look at Kaiyun. Kaiyun did not say anything, and this caused Yihua to slightly frown. I'm asking you. Yihua's tone couldn't help but become a lot heavier, and a bad premonition could be felt in his heart. Kaiyun said respectfully, Your Honor, within the crowd, there is a woman who calls herself Meng Li. He said that. Meng Yao has already. Call that person over. I want to ask him personally. Yihua said gravely. No matter what, Meng Yao can be counted as half of Yihua's sister-in-law. Although Meng Yao's relationship with Yihua has already been blown up, I, the Supreme Overlord, am still able to see that Meng Yao actually still likes Yihua. Furthermore, with Meng Yao's strength, she could have easily dodged the attack. How could she have possibly died? Even I wouldn't believe such a thing. Yes, Your Honor. Luo Ho immediately went to call Meng Li. Yihua looked at the black mass of people and his expression was very grave. Originally, he should have been happy about this matter, but along with this piece of news, his mood became incomparably depressed. The 7 subordinates could also sense His Honor's displeasure. Those who didn't understand the twists and turns of the matter were very curious, and those who understood were able to understand. After all, she could be considered as His Honor's sister-in-law. Not long after, Luo Ho brought the pale Meng Li over. Yihua looked at Meng Li, and Meng Li was also sizing up Yihua. This person in front of me is the big brother emperor that Meng Yao talked about. From the looks of it, his bearing is indeed extraordinary, and his little brother is also not far off from him. No wonder Meng Yao would be concerned about him, it isn't without reason. Furthermore, since he has appeared, that palace master should have already died. He is truly very powerful. Where's Meng Yao? Yihua asked coldly. Meng Li's expression immediately became sorrowful when Yihua mentioned Meng Yao. Meng Yao stayed behind and sent me over. Why did she stay behind? Why didn't she leave? Yihua asked gravely. Meng Yao wanted to protect her people, that's why she stayed behind. Meng Li said with a sorrowful look on her face. Encountering this kind of thing, Meng Li had no other choice. Yihua sensed for a bit. Right now, I am completely unable to sense the existence of the 9 provinces and 5 seas. The entire space has already collapsed. Meng Yao died, how am I going to explain this to my little brother? When my little brother asks about this, Yihua let out a breath. Your Honor, how are we going to settle these people? Luo Ho asked in a low voice. Yihua said faintly, settle them however you want. Yes. Luo Ho accepted the order and left. Yihua took a deep breath. Tomorrow morning is a routine meeting, I do not want to see anyone late. Yes. All of Luo Ho's subordinates shouted out. Meng Li looked at the 7 people behind Yihua, and her expression didn't look very good. Because the feeling that these 7 people are giving me is very terrifying, as if they are able to pinch me to death with a single hand. Yihua rubbed his forehead and walked to Donghuang Baiji's side. What's wrong? Weren't you very happy just now? Donghuang Baiji asked confusedly as she pressed onto Yihua's temples with her hands. Yihua said faintly, Meng Yao died. Meng Yao died. How is that possible? With her strength, she shouldn't be able to do that if she wanted to run away. Donghuang Baiji was confused. Meng Yao is still so kind, no matter what her identity is, she is still the same. Yihua said faintly. Donghuang Baiji seemed to be able to hear something from Yihua's words. Meng Yao is still just that if little Tian were to find out about this matter he would definitely feel terrible. Yihua, how about you go and rest for a bit? Dong Huang Baiji said tenderly. Go and sleep for a bit, think about what we should do in the future. Yihua suddenly felt a bit tired. This kind of fatigue was indeed caused by Meng Yao's death. After all, by Yihua's side, there was no one who died. As long as I wanted to stay, I would definitely be able to stay. Not even the Heavenly Emperor would be able to bring them away. However, what about Meng Yao? There was simply nothing that could be done. The space had already collapsed and even Yihua was unable to do anything about it. Dong Huang Baiji let out a light sigh. Originally, I thought that Yihua would be happy today. After all, I killed a palace master and even gathered all of my subordinates. Such an important day, what a pity. Dong Huang Baiji decided to go and cook a meal to comfort Yihua. I don't know how I am going to explain this to my little brother. After Yihua left, the 7 subordinates loosened up. After all, in front of his honor, the 7 subordinates were still very cautious and did not dare to say anything excessive. Especially now that his honor was in a bad mood, if they were to say anything excessive, they would be scolded by his honor. I think it is better for me to go back and find my wives. Bye-bye everyone. Lai Gu still missed his wives a lot. Other than Yuhua, there are still 3 of them, you know? Zhu Tian said, those 3 wives of yours went out to train. Chapter 1259. Training. Lai Gu was puzzled. Those 3 women went to train? What is training? Brett added, they wanted to cure your poison so they chose to go train. Isn't it just training? Where did they go? Lai Gu had an indifferent look on his face. No wonder they didn't appear during this period of time. It was always Yuhua who came over to chat with me. That place is filled with prehistoric beasts. Lai Gu originally had an indifferent look on his face, but after hearing what Zhu Tian said he immediately froze. I naturally know that place, it doesn't matter if I go there, but if they go there it will be very dangerous. Prehistoric beasts are also divided into different levels. Some of the rare prehistoric beasts are very ferocious. If one is not careful one will die. Brett said faintly, a lot of people went there, Tang Wei went there too. Just as Wei Chong was about to leave to find Tang Wei, he immediately stopped his footsteps, then looked towards Brett and asked gravely, you said that Tang Wei went there too? That's right, Green and Red brothers Li Hun, Sun Fong and the others all went there, and of course his honor's younger brother went there too. Brett said in a low voice. Wei Chong immediately wanted to teleport over to take a look at Tang Wei, but Zhu Tian immediately stopped him. His honor said that no one is allowed to go and help, but you don't have to worry, I have been watching their every move. Although they look a bit battered right now, they won't die. Zhu Tian hurriedly persuaded. Wei Chong didn't go over forcefully because this was Yi Hua's order, and Wei Chong didn't dare to disobey. Meanwhile, Dou Fusher, who was not far away, was already stupefied. My wife actually went there. Why is this happening? Luckily, great God, Zhu Tian said that they are fine, that's good enough. What everyone doesn't know is that Zhu Tian had only described it briefly, and in actuality it wasn't battered, it was miserable. At this very moment, inside a dark cave, no one dared to light up the cave, fearing that they would attract prehistoric beasts. This group of people naturally came here to train, to be more precise, they came here to seek death. Although they were still alive, all of them had severe injuries on their bodies, especially Yi Juetian. A scar had appeared on that handsome face of his, and the scar extended from his left forehead all the way to his lower jaw. This appearance of Yi Juetian made people feel that he wasn't that sissy anymore, and instead he had a bit of iron-blooded manliness. The scars on a man's body were still very sexy. Apart from the scar on his face, Yi Juetian couldn't even raise his left arm. Blood flowed continuously, and he was currently circulating his energy to treat his injuries. The others were about the same. The group of people had been here for many days, but the total time they had spent here was definitely less than 10 hours. As soon as he arrived in this world, he actually landed on the head of a primordial beast. In ordinary planes, the great desolate beasts would usually appear one by one. However, Yi Juetian finally knew that the great desolate beasts here were all in groups. They wouldn't let people live at all. Everyone only thought about one thing every day, and that was how to survive. Tang Wei, are you all right? Wandering Soul asked in concern when he saw Tang Wei clutching her stomach. Tang Wei shook her head, I'm fine. Is the injury on your back healed? Almost done. Tang Wei lightly sighed. This place was indeed very scary. Everyone had searched for a long time before they found such a safe cave. At this moment Yi Juetian said gravely, "Brothers, we don't have a lot of medicine left, we have to use it sparingly from now on. Without any major injuries we can't use medicine." At this moment LV Liang muttered, "If I knew that it would be like this, I would have brought more medicine over." Yi Hong let out a long breath. "Big brother, the medicine will be used up one day. We are here to gain experience. If there is no life and death experience, how can it still be called experience?" "Yo, I didn't expect that you would become a lot calmer," Yi Hong said in a low voice. "Time can change a person. Don't pretend to be deep. Do you think that big brother doesn't know you?" LV Liang patted on his little brother's shoulder, and the latter immediately lowered his head. Even this was seen through. "Can I, Yi Hong, not be able to get rid of my comical nature?" "Be quiet, don't attract the ferocious beasts over." The green and red brothers nodded their heads and did not speak anymore. The ferocious beasts in this place are too peculiar. You would never have thought that a blood-sucking mosquito might be a ferocious beast. The ant beneath your feet might also be a ferocious beast. Also, all of the bamboos in the bamboo forest might not be a ferocious beast. If someone with trypophobia were to see those bamboos, their face would become deathly pale from fright. Therefore, the group of people had to pay attention to a lot of things. How is it?" Tang Wei asked concernedly. "You did not have any strength previously, but Zhu Tian was not at ease, so he gave her a bit of strength. At the very least she would be able to protect herself. Dongfang Yue was the weakest, so everyone took care of her. Although she had injuries on her body, it was not a lot. However, this made Dongfang Yue feel uncomfortable. Everyone was working very hard and I don't need special care. Look at that arm of Yi Juetian's. It was caused by him blocking the ferocious beast's attack for Dongfang Yue. If I don't help her, Dongfang Yue would have died." Yi Juetian didn't want to see anyone leave. Big brother is their boss, and although I am not, I cannot throw big brother's face. Sun Fong didn't speak the entire time. Her head was lowered and she seemed to be thinking about something. In actuality, Yi Juetian's state of mind was uneasy today, and danger signals kept appearing in his head. Yi's appearance and Yi's cries would also appear in his head. If it was possible, Yi Juetian really wanted to see Yi. Perhaps this is the motivation for me to continue living. Just when everyone was resting, armored bugs suddenly emerged from the depths of the damp cave. These bugs were just like bugs in feces, causing people to feel very uncomfortable. However, the problem was that these bugs were not moving alone and were moving in groups. Furthermore, these armored bugs that were so small were also a type of ferocious beast. In the darkness, everyone didn't seem to have seen the armored bugs. However, in an instant over 1,000 armored bugs were lying on the top of the karst cave, and below them were Yi Juetian and the others. Perhaps you might think that it is impossible for an ant to do so, but when the number of armored bugs reached a peak, then even an elephant would be pushed over. Don't look down on any opponent. This was the basic principle. Out of over 1,000 armored bugs, there would definitely be a few that were unreliable. For example, this armored bug was unable to endure it any longer and thus took a dump. It just so happened to land on the back of Yi Hong's hand, and Yi Hong could clearly feel that an unknown liquid had landed on the back of Yi Hong's hand. If it was in the past, I can completely ignore it, but where is this place? I have to pay attention to every single detail. Yi Hong sniffed the unknown liquid that was on the back of Yi Hong's hand, and the smell that was on the back of Yi Hong's hand was a bit abnormal. Chapter 1260. Big brother, there seems to be something above us. Yi Hong said in a low voice. Everyone became vigilant and even their heartbeats became much faster. Following Yi Hong's words, everyone became serious, and they didn't even dare to raise their heads. Everyone was using sound transmissions to talk to each other. Run. Yi Hong said gravely. Other than running, there doesn't seem to be any other way out. Yi Juetian took a glance upwards and immediately saw densely packed bugs. These bugs actually know how to conceal their aura, and they don't even know that they are above us. That densely packed made people feel disgusted, and if it was someone with trypophobia who saw this scene, they would definitely feel very uncomfortable and might even vomit. Especially the women at the scene. When they saw this scene, their entire bodies felt cold. In this plane, the big prehistoric ferocious beasts might not be that scary, but the most scary ones were the small ones. Because there were a lot of small ones, there were a few times more than the big ones. Just like right now, every single one of them was a prehistoric ferocious beast. If they were to attack, the consequences would be hard to imagine. I originally thought that this karst cave would be very safe, But it turns out that it was all an illusion. Looking at the dark night outside, Yi Juetian knew that both sides were very dangerous, and the outside at night was even scarier. However, right now there was only one choice. And that was to run. Yi Juetian told everyone 3 seconds from the countdown. Run out without any regard for your life and don't ever turn back. Everyone knew that facing so many prehistoric ferocious beasts, they could only run. There was no chance of winning at all. Following Yi Juetian's countdown, everyone burst out with an unprecedented strength and ran with all their might. However, the thousands of bugs seemed to be letting out low roars, and their delicious prey actually ran away. In the dark night, they were just like a group of locusts, letting out buzzing sounds as they chased after one another under the moonlight. Luckily, everyone's speed was not slow, and the distance between them was gradually increasing. Finally, everyone let out a sigh of relief. They seemed to have stopped chasing. When Xia said in a low voice as she tightly wrinkled her brows. Everyone did not feel happy just because the bugs stopped chasing. On the contrary, their expressions became even more grave. The reason why they stopped chasing was because they came to someone else's territory, and even they did not dare to provoke them. Everyone be careful. Yi Juetian shouted out gravely. Right now, Yi Juetian had the aura of a leader, and under this kind of tempering there was still an effect. Everyone slightly increased their flying altitude, but they didn't dare to fly too high, because there was a possibility that there were prehistoric ferocious beasts in the clouds. In this place, there was nothing that you could not think of. There was a possibility that even those unremarkable rocks on the roadside could be prehistoric ferocious beasts. However, there were very few great desolate divine beasts here. Everyone wanted to find a place where great desolate divine beasts resided. Only then would they be slightly safer. At least he could sleep well at night. Just when everyone felt a little safer, a terrifying aura came from below. Only to see a bright red unknown object attack. Its speed was so fast that it left people speechless, directly entangling Dongfang Yu's delicate body. His reaction was still the fastest, and he directly pulled Dongfang Yu's hand. Yi Juetian immediately drew his saber and slashed towards the unknown object with a powerful saber chi. However, it did not break and only left behind a thin gash. A howl sounded out from below as if it was in great pain, and it let go of Dongfang Yuan. This is a tongue. Elvi Liang exclaimed as he saw the mucus on the tongue. Yi Hong lowered her head to take a look. There seemed to be something jumping below. Looked like a stone, and there were a lot of them. There were at least 100 of them. After a few breaths of time, everything stopped moving. However, their heads faced the crowd and opened their bloody mouths. Run! Yi Juetian did not even think and immediately shouted. These were most likely iron demon frogs. In the book that Big Brother gave him, it was recorded that the tongues of these terrifying great desolate beasts were extremely powerful. From what he saw just now, it could be seen that his weapon could only leave a shallow wound on their tongues. Their tongues were their strongest weapons. They could be long or short, and they could even spin 360 degrees without any blind spots. That kind of terror was unimaginable. He even noted that if he met these monsters he could only run and not think about anything else. Over 100 red tongues attacked towards the sky, as if they were missiles, bringing with them a terrifying aura. Everyone took out their weapons and dodged the sticky tongues. At the tip of the tongues, there was an extremely sticky liquid, and as long as one came into contact with it, they would probably have to cut off their tongues to escape. Just now Dongfang Yuan was only let go. To everyone, the tongues that were rising in a straight line were very easy to dodge. However, everyone miscalculated. Right after they dodged, the tongues actually turned around and floated away. Furthermore, the trajectory of the tongues this time was very hard to fathom. After all, there were over 100 tongues, and even their escape routes were all sealed off. Kill! Yi Juetian shouted out angrily. There was no other way, they could only kill. It wasn't that everyone had never encountered this kind of situation before, and they were basically surrounded and attacked every single time. However, this time, it seemed like it was a bit troublesome. The tongues were too powerful. When everyone's weapons slashed onto the tongues, sparks were even emitted out. When everyone's weapons slashed onto the weak points of the tongues, they only managed to leave behind a slight wound, and this only angered these great desolate beasts. Everyone was indescribably shocked. Are these great desolate beasts or not? How can there be such monsters? Ah! Yi Juetian suddenly cried out miserably. His entire body was trapped by 3 tongues and he was unable to move at all. Following that, Yi Juetian's line of defense failed, and Wen Xia and Bai Xiaozhen were also entangled in battle. With 3 less lines of defense, the entire team was facing a huge danger. Yi Juetian used all of his strength to break through, but it was still useless. The green and red brothers wanted to go and save Bai Xiaozhen, but there were over 10 tongues that were currently tightening around them. Everyone fell into an incomparably difficult situation. After going through so many near-death experiences, we still ended up failing today. These damnable tongues, to think that they are actually this stubborn. If I had known earlier, I would have fought with those bugs just now, and maybe I would have been able to find an opportunity to kill them. How are we supposed to break through these tongues? Li Hun shouted out. Everyone knew that all of the Great Desolate Beasts had a weakness, and as long as we find the weakness and kill the Great Desolate Beasts with a single move, everything would be fine. However, there was still a need for a process after all. How could it be that easy to find the weakness of the Great Desolate Beast? The long sword in Sun Fang's hand transformed into a few sword qi, but the sword qi was only able to slightly slow down the speed of the tongues, and was unable to harm the tongues at all. In actuality, this region was a no-fly zone, but just now we were running for our lives. Who would have the time to care about anything else? As long as we are able to fly in the sky, we would be able to slowly torture these Great Desolate Beasts. Every single Great Desolate Beast had their own strengths and weaknesses. For example, what about close combat? The space that these tongues had to move around in would be greatly reduced, and if we were to move around in a more coquettish manner, we would be able to make them entangle with each other.